CDH Films presents an animated storybook retold with building blocks, The Red Pyramid, Book 1 of the Cane Chronicles, from the original novel by Riordan. Now before the story starts, the Kane family has insisted on giving a fair warning to all listeners of this event. If you do choose to listen to this story, you're already taking the risk of putting yourself in great danger. But if you want help, just listen to these instructions carefully. Just go to the school, find the locker, and open it with this combination: 133233. Unfortunately, the specific school and locker number remains unknown, but if you receive this message and you're the right person, you'll just know. Once you have the package inside, study its secrets hard and carefully. And remember, whatever you do, do not keep it any longer than a week, otherwise it will consume you. Just take the next 7 days to study it carefully and leave it in a new hiding spot for the next person in need of it to find it. Now as for the Kane family, the story would have to start with them. Originally, it started at Cleopatra's Needle, in England, 6 years earlier, with Ruby and Julius Kane. But we can get to that later. For now, let's start off where it had to start for their children, Carter and Sadie, on Christmas Eve 2009, when Julius and Carter went to pick up Sadie for visitation. One thing about 6 years earlier was that Julius Kane's wife Ruby, for reasons that remain unknown, was deceased. After that, the court had Carter and Sadie separated. After a fight with Ruby's parents, which included 6 lawyers, 2 fistfights, and a fatal spatula attack, don't ask, Julius lost Sadie to them. So while she stayed living with them in London, Carter stayed with his father. All around the world. La 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 la. And that's how things have been since Carter was 8 years old. Carter and Sadie were born in LA, but their father is an archaeologist, so his work takes him all over. They mostly spend time in Egypt since that's his specialty. Go into a bookstore, find a book about Egypt, and there's a pretty good chance it was written by Dr. Julius Kane. Of course, there were other reasons Julius moved around so much, reasons that Carter had yet to discover for himself. Since they kept traveling so much, Dad just homeschooled Carter, if you can call it homeschooling when you don't have a home. Carter barely remembered what it was like to go to a real school. His dad pretty much just taught him whatever he thought was important, like math or English. He also learned a lot about Egypt, and basketball. Carter's dad trained him early to keep all his possessions in a single suitcase. His dad packed the same way, except for one extra work bag for his archaeology tools. Rule number 1, Carter was not allowed to look in his work bag. That's a rule Carter never broke. Until that very Christmas Eve. They only saw Sadie 2 days a year, once in the summer and once in the winter. Now, they were arriving in London for their yearly winter visit once again. The whole day so far, Julius seemed to be acting a little nervous. He kept looking over his shoulder like they were being hunted. No sign of them. Good, he muttered, a little louder than he intended. What? Carter asked. What is it, Dad? Oh, nothing, Carter. Everything's fine. Listen, why don't you go on ahead and get your sister? I just need a minute. Carter almost wanted to ask why, and he did feel a little worried about his dad. But he also learned that no amount of questioning would get the truth out of him, and Carter just did as he was told. Before he could even knock, the door swung open, and Sadie stood right there. She wore her usual jeans, brown leather jacket, combat boots, and red highlights in her hair. Since she had been used to living in London for 6 years, she had developed a British accent. You're late, she blurted out. As usual. Good to see you too, sis, Carter muttered. Gran, going out, she called. Don't let them in, Gran called back. Well, Sadie said, let's get on with it. And that's how it had been for the past 6 years. No, hi, how have you been the last 6 months, or missed you, or anything like that. But that was okay with Carter. When you see each other for only twice a year, it's like you're distant cousins rather than siblings. The only thing they had in common was their parents. "Who's that?" she asked, pointing across the street. Across the street, their dad was having what looked like a serious argument with some strange man in a nice suit and dark glasses. "I'm telling you, Julius, you'll regret this," the man said. "I'll regret it even more if I don't try, Amos," Julius said. "If I don't, we're all in danger." "The Per'og is already shadowing you," Amos warned. "If you go through with this, I won't be able to stop them." Then Sadie popped up and shouted, "Dad!" "Hello, sweetheart," Julius said, smiling. Sadie pulled away. "Oh, so it's sweetheart now, is it? You're late. Visitation day is nearly over. And who was that? And what's Per'og?" Dad stared at Carter like he was wondering how much they had overheard. No one seemed to notice until last minute that Amos just ran off. It almost seemed like he just vanished out of thin air. "It's nothing," he said, trying to sound upbeat. "I have a wonderful evening planned. Who would like a private tour of the British Museum?" Minutes later in the car, Sadie grumbled, "Unbelievable. One evening together and you want to do research. Don't you ever think about anything else?" Dad did not get mad. He never gets mad at Sadie. He just stared into the distance and quietly said, Yes, I do." He got quiet and stared off into nowhere like that a lot, and Carter knew he was thinking about their mom. For the last few months, it had been happening a little more than usual. Carter remembered all the times his dad told him how he first met his mom. Sometime back in the mid-90s, two young scientists met by chance at a dig site somewhere in Egypt, and it was love at first sight. Minutes later, Julius told the driver to stop and pull over on the Victorian embankment. Julius got out of the cab, and Sadie and Carter joined him on the sidewalk as he stared up at Cleopatra's Needle. "Sorry," Julius said. I had to see it again. One last time. Where it happened." "It?" Carter asked. "What's it?" "Where I last saw your mother," Dad answered. "What?" Sadie gasped. "You're telling me she died here? Dad, I walk past this thing every day, and this whole time I didn't even know?" "Do you still have your cat? And your amulet?" Dad asked her, which seemed like a really stupid question. When they were little, just before Sadie went to live with their grandparents, their dad had given them both Egyptian amulets. Carter's was an Eye of Horus, which was a popular protection symbol in ancient Egypt. Sadie's amulet was the Knot of Isis. Carter always wore his under his shirt, but he figured Sadie would have lost hers or thrown it away. To Carter's surprise, she had been wearing it today. "Of course I have it, Dad," she argued, "but don't change the subject. Grant's always going on about how Mom's death was your fault. That's not true, is it?" At that moment, for once, Carter and Sadie wanted the exact same thing: the truth. "It's true that it happened here," Julius said, "but I swear it was not my fault." The air seemed to get misty all of a sudden, and Carter turned to see two figures down the street. He saw a tall man wearing cream-colored robes and had the same dark facial hair and haircut that Carter saw every other villain pull off in every other secret agent movie. Next to him was a honey-skinned girl with dark bangs and dressed in a short blue dress and black leggings. They were just standing there, side by side, down the street, and looking in their direction. Then the street light flickered, and just as quickly, the man and the girl were gone. Sadie said nervously. "Everyone else saw that, right?" But their father just said, "We're out of time," and he gestured for them to get back in the cab. They made it to the museum just as the sun was going down. Carter had been to the British Museum before. In fact, his dad took him to more museums than he liked to admit. Since it was Christmas Eve, the place was closed, but Dr. Martin, the curator, and two security guards were waiting for them at the entrance hall. Julius introduced Dr. Martin to the kids. Ah, your son, obviously, he said. And this young lady?
My daughter, Sadie, Julius said.
He had that same embarrassing stare that Carter had come to recognize. The same old embarrassing stare people make when they realize that Sadie is part of the family. Carter hated it, but over the years he had come to expect it. Yes, of course, Dr. Martin said. The security guards took their luggage, then one of them tried to reach for Dad's work bag.
No,
Dad said with a tight smile.
I'll keep this one.
And the guard didn't even say a word. Minutes later, they all stood in front of one of the most famous stones in the world. The Rosetta Stone. Now, I don't like to judge, the curator said, but I can't imagine what new information you could gain from it. It's been studied to death.
Of course, Julius said, but you may be surprised. And you're sure this one's not a replica?
Oh no, the curator promised, though we don't always keep the actual stone on display. But for you, this is quite real.
Excellent, Julius said. And is it possible you could have the glass removed? Also, if you could bring me the papers I asked for from the archives.
It will take a few minutes to retrieve the notes, Dr. Martin said. For anyone else, I would hesitate to grant unguarded access to the stone as he requested. I trust you'll be careful, he said, staring at the kids like they were troublemakers.
We'll be careful, Julius promised.
As soon as Dr. Martin left the room, Julius turned to the kids with a sharp look in his eyes.
Carter, Sadie, this is very important. This may be our only chance. Follow Dr. Martin. You'll find his room at the end of the great court, on the left. There's only one entrance.
He pulled out a bike chain and padlock from his bag.
Once he's inside, wrap this around the door handles and lock it tight. We need to delay him.
You want us to lock him in? Sadie asked, suddenly interested. Brilliant! Delay him for what? Carter asked confusingly. Dad, what's going on?
We don't have time for explanations, he said. They're coming.
Who's coming? Carter asked. Those guys from down the street? Julius got down on his knees.
Carter, you're my brave man, and I couldn't be any more proud. Sadie, sweetheart, I just want you to know I love you both more than anything, and I'm sorry for a lot of things. We're short on time now, but if things go as planned tonight, I promise I will make everything right again. For all of us. So tonight, I need you both to trust me. Remember, lock up Dr. Martin, then stay out of this room.
Chaining the curator's door was easy, but as they did it, Carter and Sadie still didn't know what to make of whatever it was Dad was up to. Do you know what he's on about? Sadie asked Carter. Nope, Carter said, but he's been acting strange lately, thinking a lot about Mom and looking at her picture in his bag, and he didn't want to say more, and Sadie didn't look like she wanted to hear more. What's in his bag? She asked. Dunno, said Carter. He told me never to look. And you never did? Sadie argued. God, that is so like you, Carter. You're hopeless. He wanted to defend himself, but just then, they felt a tremor under their feet. Just as Carter expected, Sadie forgot all about Dad's warning and sprinted back down the hall, and Carter had no other choice but to follow her. They peeked through the doors. Their dad stood in front of the Rosetta Stone with his back to them. Julius's bag was on the floor, and somehow the glass box had already been removed. A blue circle glowed on the floor around him, as if someone had switched on hidden neon tubes in the floor. Julius held out a... Was that an animal's tusk? Whatever it was white and curved, and he pressed it to the Rosetta Stone. Wherever the stick made contact, glowing blue light appeared on the granite. It made no sense. How could he write glowing lines with a stick? He kept going until he made 3 symbols, ram horns above a box and then an X. Open, Sadie murmured. Carter stared at her. because it sounded like she just translated the word. But that was impossible. Hieroglyphs are seriously hard to learn. Carter had a hard time learning them, and Sadie never really cared about those sort of things. Julius raised his arms and chanted, "Woe, sir, ei." Then, 2 more hieroglyphs appeared on the stone. Carter recognized the first symbol. He knew exactly what it meant. Osiris, the Egyptian god of the dead. "Osiris, come," Sadie said, surprised. "No," she shouted. "Dad, don't." Julius turned in surprise.
Sadie?
Boom! The Rosetta Stone exploded with a blinding light, and everyone fell flat on the floor. When Carter regained consciousness, the first thing he heard was laughter. Horrible, gleeful laughter. Sadie was passed out next to him, but she looked unharmed. Carter barely paid attention to the waves of fire rippling along the floor, because hovering over where the Rosetta Stone had exploded was a big, red, fiery man. He was just floating in midair a few inches off the ground. He stood about 9 feet tall, and his skin seemed to be glowing pure red, and not just because his whole body was literally outlined with fire. He had his back turned to Carter and was face to face with Julius.
Well, well, well,
the man's voice echoed.
Well done, Julius.
You were not summoned here. Julius trembled.
No one's ever foolish enough to summon me, Julius,
the red man chuckled.
But when you open a door, you must be prepared for guests to enter.
Back to the do-what, Julius roared. He held up the boar's tusk, but the fiery man flicked it out of his hand, making it shatter to dust.
Your Patreon god was never any match for me.
Carter couldn't make sense of anything he saw, but he just knew he had to help his dad. Then his dad shot him a silent look that told him, "Run." Carter realized he was intentionally keeping the fiery man's back to them as a way to give Carter and Sadie a chance to escape unnoticed. Carter managed to sit her up, and she opened her eyes. She almost screamed, but Carter covered her mouth.
How many did I release?
Julius asked.
Why, all 5, of course, the fiery man answered. You should know a package deal, Julius. And now that I'm free, I shall release even more.
They'll never let that happen, Julius said. They'll stop you before you get the chance.
You mean the house?
The man asked.
Those fools can't even stop arguing among themselves.
He thrust out his hand toward Julius, and he rose into the air.
Now, let this story be told anew, the fiery man said. Soon I shall become king once again, and this time you shall never rise.
Suddenly, what looked like a golden coffin materialized around Julius.
Goodbye, Osiris.
The kids watched as their dad sank into a fiery pit in the floor. No, Dad! Sadie shouted. Boom! The fiery man shot a blast of flames at the kids, but by some weird miracle, they were alive, with not a single scratch on them. The only things that felt hot were the amulets under their shirts.
So, it's you two,
the fiery man said. Then he exploded into blinding light, knocking the kids to the floor again. Seconds later, Carter heard footsteps just 5 feet in front of him. 2 new people stood in the room. It was the exact same man and girl he saw at Cleopatra's Needle. We should finish them now before they cause more damage, the girl said. Patience, dear, the man said with a French accent. Our investigation is still open. The chief lector shall decide their fate. With that, Carter drifted into unconsciousness. What happened next? 3 simple words. Worst Christmas ever. The next thing the kids knew, they ended up waking up accompanied by the police. They were taken downtown to be questioned a few times, but no matter what Carter or Sadie said, no one believed them. Hours later, they were taken back to their grandparents' house. For some reason, they kept the kids separated from each other. While Carter sat downstairs with his grandparents, Sadie was asked to wait upstairs in her bedroom. There was an officer standing just outside her door, and Sadie wasn't allowed to come out, not even to use the loo. Her room wasn't much. In fact, it was really just the attic space. Yep, the flat was that small. Their grandparents had been living in the same flat years before Sadie ever moved in, and it was really designed to be a single person's home, but what are you going to do? There was just her bed, a dresser, a chest for her more personal belongings, and a desk to do her homework. There was also the family portrait Sadie kept on the dresser, the last picture of her with Carter and their parents before whatever it was that happened to her mother. Sadie also had her pet cat, Muffin, which her dad had given her, coincidentally, just after Mom died. For some reason, Muffin never seemed to get bigger or any older, but Sadie didn't pay much attention to that. While she stood there, she looked at the necklace from her father, which looked a bit like a stick figure or maybe some kind of retro robot. She wasn't sure why her father had asked if she still had it. Thinking back to the whole museum incident, Sadie felt frightened and horrified. It was also weird how her dad had said earlier,
"If things go as planned tonight, I promise I'll make everything right again, for all of us."
But she wondered what could that have had to do with the Rosetta Stone, and how could Dad have made things right by blowing it up? Then the officer walked in and asked her to come downstairs. Chief Inspector Williams had just finished talking with Carter. Surprisingly, Carter somehow still had his father's work bag, which should have been evidence, but the officers didn't seem to notice or even care. The inspector asked Sadie if she could explain the situation from her point of view. As she explained everything from getting picked up to getting knocked out, she could already tell the inspector did not believe a word. As she kept going, his eyebrow kept getting so high it looked higher than normal.
"Well, Sadie," he said, "I'm sure you just want to protect your father's reputation, but considering what he had caused at the museum, we must figure out why. We've made some calls to his associates, and we understand how he's been behaving more erratic since your mother's death, spending more time in Egypt and becoming more obsessive."
"He's a bloody Egyptologist," Sadie argued. "You should be looking for him, not asking stupid questions."
"Sadie," he said.
She could hear in his voice that he was resisting the urge to strangle her.
"There are extremist groups in Egypt that object to Egyptian artifacts being kept in other countries' museums. These people might have approached your father. Perhaps in this case your father became an easy target for them. They may have their own suspicions."
"Enough!"
Sadie shouted. She wasn't sure what came over her. Have you ever had that moment where adults ask for the truth and still don't believe you even when you give it to them? Well, that was probably the main thing that set her off. Also, this man was being way too quick to judge her father. Sure, they weren't all that close, but the fact that they were still family, Sadie couldn't help but feel like she just had to speak up for her father.
"Look, I know what you're trying to convince me of, and you're wrong," Sadie said. "My dad is not crazy, he is not a criminal, he did not commit suicide, and he most certainly did not abandon us. Don't you get it? He was kidnapped." "Sadie, please, the inspector's only doing his job," Gran said. "Badly," Sadie said.
"Now, no one really blames you for what happened, Sadie," the inspector said. "We understand you were dragged into this against your will."
"Against my will? I chained the curator's door."
"Be that as it may, surely you didn't understand what your father meant to do. Possibly your brother was involved."
She snorted.
"Carter, please."
"So you're determined to protect him as well. You consider him a proper brother."
She wanted to smack him for that.
"What's that supposed to mean? Because he doesn't look like me?"
The inspector blinked.
I only meant..."
"Yes, I know exactly what you were trying to avoid saying. Of course he's my brother."
The inspector held up his hands apologetically, but Sadie could still see the embarrassment on his face. As much as Carter annoyed Sadie, she hated it when people just assumed they weren't related. Or looked at their father and suddenly realized the three of them were a family, as if they did something wrong.
Stupid racist Dr. Martin. Stupid judgmental Inspector Williams, Sadie thought. It happened every time she, Carter, and Dad were together. Honestly, what was this, the 90s?
I'm sorry, Sadie, the inspector said. I really just want to make sure we separate the innocent from the guilty. It will go much easier for everyone if you cooperate. Any information, anything your father said, or people he might have mentioned...
Sadie wasn't sure how long it had been, but she just noticed out the window the same man who argued with her dad earlier seemed to be watching them from across the street. "Amos!" she blurted out, just to see his reaction. "He met a man named Amos."
Sorry, Sadie, but that's impossible, the inspector said. We spoke with Amos not 1 hour ago on the phone from his house in New York.
"He isn't in New York," she insisted. "He's right—" She pointed at the window, but Amos was gone. Typical, Sadie thought. "I mean, he was here just before we drove off to the museum. Who is he anyway? One of Dad's colleagues? How did you even know to call him?"
Please, Sadie, this acting must stop.
Acting?
We've already heard the same story from Carter. I didn't want to upset you, but he told us everything. He understands there's no point protecting your father, and you might as well help us, and there will be no charges against you.
"You shouldn't lie to children," Sadie yelled. The inspector didn't even look embarrassed for a second. He turned to Gran and Gramps and said, Well, Mr. and Mrs. Faust, looks like we have 2 uncooperative children. "They're just children," Gran said. "Surely you can't blame them."
"This is ridiculous, Inspector. They can't be responsible," Gramps said.
Mr. Faust, he said, what do you imagine they'll say in the papers tomorrow? British Museum attacks, Rosetta Stone destroyed, your son-in-law...
"Former son-in-law, mind you," Gramps corrected.
"Was most likely vaporized in the explosion, or he ran off. Either way, he still left your grandchildren to deal with the consequences."
"I already told you he did not run off," Sadie argued. "He sank through the floor, just as we saw, and Carter and I weren't the only ones there."
We can charge you, the inspector said. We can, and we will, and...
He froze and blinked several times as if he'd forgotten what he was doing.
Inspector?"
Gramps asked.
Yes,
The inspector said. Then he reached into his pocket and took out 2 American passports.
I'm so sorry it took me this long, the inspector announced, but you'll have no choice but to be deported. You are to leave the country within 24 hours. If we need to question you further, you'll be contacted through the FBI.
Carter's mouth fell open. He looked at Sadie, and they both knew they weren't imagining this. The inspector had completely changed direction. Sadie was so sure he was just about to put them under arrest. "Wait a minute," Carter said. "My father's missing and you just want me to leave?"
Your father's either dead or a fugitive, son, the inspector said. Deportation is the kindest option. It's already been arranged.
"With whom?" Gramps demanded. "Who authorized this?"
Why, with me, of course,
a voice at the door said. The whole family dropped their jaws as they looked toward the front door. It was Amos. They thought the inspector would say something, but instead, he and the officers just walked right past them and into the night, like he wasn't even there.
"You," Gramps growled. "I should have known. Why, if I were at least 20 years younger, I would beat you to a pulp."
Oh, so that's it then? Amos asked. No, thank you, Amos, for getting our grandchildren off the hook. Well, the children are quite welcome.
"Wait, it was you?" Gran asked. "You changed the inspector's mind? You made him deport the children?"
"What?"
Carter and Sadie asked.
Well, it was either that or prison, so you're welcome, Amos said. And it's not permanent, so I suggest we get moving before the inspector comes back to his senses in about an hour.
Excuse me, Sadie said. I can't just go off with some stranger that I just met today. I mean, Carter can do whatever he wants, but I live here.
Oh, but I'm no stranger, Sadie, said Amos. I'm part of the family. Don't you remember me?
It felt creepy to Sadie hearing him talk in such a familiar way. In fact, she felt like she should have known who he was. Then suddenly, a distant memory which Sadie had almost completely forgotten started coming back. She remembered his face smiling down at her saying, "Happy birthday, Sadie."
Uncle Amos?
He winked behind his dark glasses, as if confirming she got her answer right.
"Oh, but Amos, please," Gran said. "You can't take Sadie. We had an agreement."
Julius broke that agreement tonight, Amos said. After what's happened tonight, you both know as well as I do, they're not safe here anymore. Their only chance is to come to the family mansion with me.
Our family owns a mansion?"
Sadie asked.
In Brooklyn, yes, Amos answered, and I suggest we make our way there in about an hour.
"Why should we go anywhere with you?" Carter asked. "You were fighting with our dad."
Amos looked at Julius's work bag.
I see you kept your father's bag, he said. That's good. You're going to need it where we're going. As for getting into fights, Julius and I did that quite a lot, and if you didn't notice, Carter, I was trying to talk him out of doing something rash. If only he'd listened to me, then possibly none of this would be happening.
"You and your superstitions," Graham said. "We told you we want none of it."
Superstitions, is it? Amos asked. And yet you found a place to live on the east bank of the river.
"That was Ruby's idea," Gramps argued. "She thought it would protect us, but she was wrong about many things, wasn't she? She trusted Julius and you for one."
We all know what's begun, Amos said. The police are the least of your worries.
"But you can't get to New York from London in an hour," Carter said. "Not even the fastest plane."
No, Amos agreed. Not a plane.
"But our dad
is beyond your help right now," Amos said. I'm sorry, Carter. I promise I'll explain later, but right now, your father would want you to be safe. For that, we must move quickly. I'm afraid I'm all you've got.
Carter looked at Gran and Gramps, but they both could hardly look him in the eye, as if it were their way of saying they'd rather have him go than stay with him. And yes, it was rather stupid, cruel, and racist excuse not to take in your only grandson, but there you are. Amos stepped out the door.
The police will be back soon, he said. Tell them anything you like. They won't find us.
So, how do you plan to get to New York in an hour? Carter asked Amos. Amos pointed down the street, and docked on the quayside, they saw a boat. An Egyptian reed boat, the kind that was made from plant material woven together. "We're going to Brooklyn in that?" Carter asked. Sadie looked back at her grandmother. "Gran, please." "It's probably for the best, dear," she said. "You should take Muffin."
Ah, yes, Amos said. We can't forget the cat.
He turned toward the stairs, and as if on cue, Muffin stood right there as if she were waiting to leave.
Well then, Amos said, we better get moving. We've got a long way to go.
They followed Amos down to the weird boat. Carter still couldn't believe his dad was just gone, but he knew he wasn't going to find answers waiting around here. Carter couldn't say he fully trusted Amos, but he figured if he wanted to find some answers, he would have to go along with him. He was the only one who seemed to know anything. Carter had seen boats like this on the Nile in Egypt before, and they never seemed very sturdy. He wasn't sure how the boat was supposed to move. There was no sail, and there didn't seem to be an engine. Then, as if to answer the question, Amos tapped on the bow 3 times, and as if in response, the boat lurched forward. In just minutes, a sea of fog came from out of nowhere. The city lights blurred and were swallowed up in the thick fog. Strange sounds echoed in the dark, slithering and hissing. Distant screams, voices whispering in languages Carter didn't understand. Carter was about to scream himself when suddenly, the fog cleared up, the noises stopped, and the city lights came back brighter than before. Carter's jaw dropped as he saw a familiar skyline. It was New York City! Impossible, Carter thought. They'd barely sat in the boat for a few minutes, and yet there it was. They glided to a stop next to a small dock on the Brooklyn side of the river. Right at the water's edge rose the 3-story warehouse.
That's no mansion, Sadie said.
Look again, said Amos.
Carter wasn't sure why he hadn't seen it before, but now it was obvious. A 3-story mansion sitting on the roof of the warehouse, like another layer of a cake. It was built out of limestone blocks and steel-framed windows. But the weirdest thing was that when Carter glanced to the side, the whole building seemed to disappear. He tried it several times just to be sure. When he tried looking for the mansion in the corner of his eye, it kept disappearing and reappearing.
You couldn't build a mansion up there, he said.
Long story, Amos said, but we needed a private location.
And is this the shore? Sadie asked. You said something about that in London, about my grandparents living on the East Shore.
Amos smiled.
Yes, very good, Sadie. In ancient times, the east bank of the Nile was always the side of the living, the side where the sun rises. And because the dead were buried west of the river, it was considered bad luck, even dangerous, to live there. That tradition still remains strong among our people.
Our people? Carter asked. But if you can hide your house anywhere you wanted, why not somewhere more nicer or popular? Sadie asked. Maybe like Manhattan over there?
Manhattan already has other problems to deal with, Sadie, Amos said. It's best we stay separated.
Other what? Sadie asked confusingly. But Amos just ignored the question. Then he climbed up the fire escape, and they followed him all the way up to the top of the warehouse.
Welcome to the 21st Gnome, he said.
Gnomes? Carter asked. You mean like those little runty guys?
Oh, heavens, no, Amos said. I hate gnomes. They smell horrible.
Amos explained how gnome was the term from ancient times for a district or region when Egypt was divided into 42 provinces.
Today, he said, the system is a little different. We've gone global. The world is now divided into 360 gnomes. Egypt, of course, is the first. Greater New York is the 21st.
Carter stared at the huge doors, which had no handles or locks. How do you get in? He asked Amos.
Can't you guess?
Amos asked. Carter then decided to stretch out his hand and to push the door open, but before he could touch them, they just pulled themselves forward as if on automatic. Sadie tried to go in first, but as she climbed the steps, Muffin jumped out of her arms and hissed like she was scared.
Oh, right, I'm so sorry. I should have remembered. I give you permission to enter, Amos told the cat.
Why does the cat need permission? Carter asked. Again, Amos ignored the questions, and he just stepped inside. When they walked into the living room, it gave Home Sweet Home a whole new meaning. There were stone pillars holding up balconies ringed all around the upper floors. A flat-screen TV hung over a huge fireplace. On their left, a wide glass window took up the whole wall, so they could see a pool outside. In one corner, there was a wall full of ancient weapons on display, probably a collection. At the far end of the room was a set of doors marked with the Eye of Horus and locked up with a padlock. In one spot stood a statue of a 30-foot-tall bird-headed man, which Carter recognized. Thoth, the Egyptian god of knowledge. On the statue's pedestal was the Egyptian looped cross over a rectangle. "That's it!" Sadie exclaimed. "Per Ankh!" "What?" Carter asked. "That box is like the floor plan of a house," Sadie explained. "And the cross is the Egyptian symbol for life. Per Ankh, the house of life." "Okay, since when do you know that?" Carter asked. The strangest part was that Carter realized Sadie was correct, but it wasn't like she had ever cared enough to study those sort of things before today. "I can't explain it," Sadie said. "I just know."
"Very good, Sadie," said Amos.
And Thoth here, the Egyptian god who invented writing, is not only the founder, but also the only god still welcomed in the House of Life.
You know what I don't get? Sadie said. Why don't all the Egyptian gods have animal heads? Who would believe in such a god? That just seems so silly.
They don't really appear that way in real life, Sadie, Amos said. That's just a way to represent the gods' power, or their sacred animals. They're bridges between humanity and nature. Animal heads show that they exist in both worlds at once. Do you understand?
Not even a little, Sadie said.
Amos didn't sound surprised.
Well, it is a lot to process. You're both probably too exhausted from all that's happened today. Perhaps we should save the rest for tomorrow and get some sleep. We'll have lots of training to do.
Training? Carter asked. Training for what?
Khufu!
Amos shouted. Gesundheit? Carter said. Then from the balcony on the second floor, a baboon jumped down in front of them. He was dressed in a purple basketball jersey and had the most shiniest golden fur they'd ever seen. You have a baboon butler? Sadie wondered. Sure, why not? The Bakers are my home team, Carter explained, which seemed to make the monkey instantly happy.
Oh, I think you and Khufu will get along perfectly, Carter,
Amos said. No surprise, Sadie said. Amos asked Khufu to show Carter and Sadie to their rooms. Carter wondered how Khufu could understand, but before he could ask, Amos said,
Oh, Carter, the work bag, if you please. It's best to keep it locked up in the library where it's safe.
Carter hesitated. The bag was the only thing he had left of his father.
It'll be all right, Carter, Amos said. You'll get it back when the time is right.
Carter handed him the work bag.
See you in the morning,
said Amos. Then he walked to the golden doors. The chains on the door unlatched themselves, and once Amos stepped inside, they reattached again. The kids had no idea what to make of that, so they went ahead and followed Khufu upstairs. Carter's room was set up like a big luxurious hotel room, and it was sweeter than any place they had ever stayed. There was enough space for a couch and a huge TV in front of it. He had his own bathroom, and it was real spacey and gorgeous. He even had his own balcony, but right now the door to it was locked. There was also one of those mini fridges against the wall, and inside were all of Carter's favorite snacks. But how could Amos have known what he liked? Even his closet was full of similar clothing he was used to wearing. Sadie's room was pretty much the same, except for the wardrobe and the snacks. Seconds later, Carter realized that his bedroom door was locked from the outside. From behind the wall, he heard Sadie call, Carter? Carter, can you hear me? Yeah, I'm here, Sadie, he answered. My door's locked, Sadie said. Yeah, mine too, said Carter. Carter, do you think can we trust him? She asked. I think if he wanted to hurt us, he could have done it already, Carter answered. Carter, she said, it was magic, wasn't it? What happened to Dad, the fiery man, Amos's boat, this place? Yeah, I think so, he answered. Good, she sighed. At least I'm not going mad. Carter could hear the worry in her voice, and he had the feeling he was going to have to play a role he hadn't played in years, the role of Big Brother. It'll be okay, he said. We'll find Dad, and Amos will be there to help us, but right now we should get some sleep. Okay, she said. Well, good night. Good night, he replied. When Carter got into bed, the first thing he realized was that his pillow wasn't a pillow. It was some sort of ivory headrest. He had seen plenty of these in museums, and he wasn't sure why there was one in his bed. So he put it aside and went to sleep as best he could. Carter realized his first mistake too late. He dreamed that he was flying, but it felt way too real. The weird part was, while he still had his own head, the rest of his body was replaced with the body of a bird. He had colorful feathers and seemed to be glowing. He seemed to have no control over his body and just watched as he soared over a mountainside at night. Standing below him was the fiery man. He was no longer covered in flames and was now dressed in a suit and coat that matched his blood-colored skin. Standing next to him was the most ugliest creature Carter ever saw. Its face looked reptilian, but also misshapen.
"And what do they call this domain?"
the red man asked the demon.
My lord, the demon said, the mountain is named Camelback, but the city is named Phoenix.
"Phoenix," the red man said. "How appropriate. And the desert, so much like home. Yes, this shall be the perfect spot to build my pyramid. Once it is complete, it shall serve as my permanent host, and then I shall summon the greatest storm ever known."
But my lord, what of the other four?
The demon asked.
"Osiris is entombed," he answered. "My wife, wherever she may be, is no threat. The other two are occupied by the younglings, and I know of their location. Start with the cephalopods," he ordered the demon. "Have them tear apart their hiding place and bring them to me. Do this, and you shall be rewarded, Face of Horror."
Yes, my lord, said Face of Horror.
"And we must hurry before they learn of their powers. As far as I know, their training has yet to begin. Isn't that right? Boy!"
He reached for Carter above him, and Carter woke up back in his bed. Carter could have sworn his actual neck had just been squeezed. He wanted to believe what he had seen was just a bad dream, but a little voice inside his head told him otherwise. But how could any of that have been real? And what the heck were they talking about? And was that little snake demon's name really Face of Horror? Only did he notice a little late that Muffet had somehow gotten into his room and climbed on his bed. "Who let you in?" he asked. Carter got dressed and found a perfect replica of the outfit he wore yesterday, only this one was entirely made out of linen. He went downstairs and found everyone having breakfast outside.
"Morning, Carter, and Merry Christmas,"
said Amos. So much had happened in one day, Carter couldn't believe he actually forgot the fact that today was Christmas. The saddest part was that it was his first Christmas without his dad or mom, but he didn't say anything.
"Help yourself to anything you like, Carter," Amos said. "Whatever you don't finish, you could just toss it to Philip."
"Who's Philip?" Carter asked. Then Sadie threw a sausage behind her, and from out of the pool, a white crocodile jumped up and ate it. Amos explained that the crocodile was his pet that guarded the house, but he wouldn't hurt anyone unless Amos told him to, and his name was Philip of Macedonia. "Right, and, is Khufu eating something with pink feathers?" Carter asked.
"Ah, yes," Amos said. "Khufu here is quite picky. Only eats things that end in O, like tacos, burritos, nachos, flamingos, etc."
Well, enough about weird pets, Sadie demanded. It's morning now, and time for explanations. What happened to Dad? Who was the fiery man? Why did everyone choose not to believe us? And why would Dad go through all that trouble just to break the Rosetta Stone?
"Oh, I'm sure he didn't mean to break it," Amos said. "In fact, our brethren in Europe should have it all fixed up by now, and all witnesses' memories wiped."
"What are you talking about?" Carter asked. "It was shattered to pieces. How could they fix it?" Crack! Amos slammed his teacup on the ground, and then said,
"Hi, Neem."
And the cup was back in one piece.
"Of course, I could have used the spell Hadi to break it, but smashing it is easier," Amos said. "As for last night, as far as I know, your father might have found what he'd been looking for the past 6 years. A way to summon the god Osiris, and I believe he had done just that when he destroyed the stone." I also believe it may have had something to do with your mother's passing.
Wait, Carter said. Osiris is the Lord of the Dead, and Dad said something about making things right. You think he wanted to bring Mum back? Sadie suggested. But that's crazy, and that fiery bloke wasn't Osiris. Was he?
No, Amos said, and I think your father had gotten more than what he bargained for. He may not have realized that from releasing Osiris, he may have freed all 5 children of Nut and Geb.
Amos then explained for the past 2,000 years the House of Life's duty had been to magically imprison Egypt's gods inside Egypt's remaining relics. Amos mentioned that the House of Life had done this to restore balance. Releasing the gods had been the house's most important law, and Julius and Ruby together had in fact broken that very law once before.
I think they were trying to do some good, Amos said. They took a terrible risk, and it cost your mother's life. Afterward, your father had been exiled from the house and had been on the run ever since, and that, Carter, is why you and him have been traveling the world. The house was afraid your father would continue his research, so they kept monitoring him. Next to that, they were afraid you two would develop your powers too rapidly, which is why he had the court separate the two of you.
What? Wait, I thought Dad lost in the court after that crazy spatula fight, Carter said.
That's what your father and grandparents told you, said Amos, but your father really did want to keep the both of you.
He did? Sadie asked, starting to get doggy-eyed.
Of course he did, but the house had us convinced that it was the safest choice. We all knew it was risky to keep you two together, because your abilities would have grown uncontrollably.
We're just kids. What's so dangerous about us? Sadie asked.
The two of you carry 2 of the most ancient, powerful bloodlines going all the way back to Egypt's earliest dynasties. Surely either of you must have noticed some changes in you since yesterday.
Well, Sadie had suddenly learned to read hieroglyphs at the museum, Carter said, and I sort of had some weird dream last night. Carter then explained to them about his dream, including the part where the Red Man said he would build a pyramid in Camelback Mountain and use it as a permanent host.
If what you say is true, we are out of time, said Amos.
But it was just a nightmare, Carter said.
You mentioned when you woke up how you felt as if your neck had actually been squeezed, said Amos. Carter, that was no dream. When you turned into a bird, that was your Ba form, a physical manifestation of your soul escaping through the Duat while you slept. Next to that, why weren't you using the headrest?
It was uncomfortable, he answered. Wait, don't tell me you used it, he said, looking at Sadie. Well, obviously it was there for a reason, she said.
The idea that your soul left your body while you slept, that could be dangerous, Carter, Amos said. Without the headrest, you could have died. But fortunately, you didn't. Next to that, this experience only means you're progressing faster than should be possible. The Red Lord had noticed that.
You mean the fiery bloke? Sadie asked.
I'm just going to have to take a better look at it myself,
Amos said. Then he got up and walked to the edge of the building.
If we're going to have any chance of stopping him and rescuing your father, I'm going to have to see what's happening in Phoenix, he told the kids. I should try to make it back by sunset. Muffin will protect you.
What? Sadie asked.
Don't worry, the house is protected by many enchantments. Both of you just stay here and don't answer the door for anyone else. And whatever you do, do not go into the library. I absolutely forbid it.
And just like that, he stepped over the edge. By the time the kids ran over to take a look, there was no sign of Amos anywhere. Almost like a magic trick? Okay, so what the heck we do now? Carter asked. Well, that's obvious, Sadie said. Amos says not to go into the library. We explore. What? Come on, no, Carter said.
No more rule breaking. Wasn't yesterday bad enough for you? Oh, sorry, brother dear, Sadie said. Did your soul leave your body again while we were talking, or did you even hear what Amos said? Egyptian gods real, Red Lord bad, Red Lord building a permanent house very bad. Mom and Dad banished from a magic club because they were rebels, all kinds of bad. Evil God kidnaps Dad and gets ready to take over the world. No words strong enough to describe how bad that is. And suddenly, a mysterious uncle, who we haven't seen in years, just shows up to let the cat out of the bag last minute just before he jumps off a building. And I can't even blame him. Next thing I know, I'm stuck here with my bookworm brother who's too scared to visit a bloody library. Did I leave anything out? Okay, fine, Carter said. Guess I do still want to check on Dad's bag. When they walked to the doors, Khufu jumped in their paths, screaming as if trying to scare them away. It's okay, Khufu, Carter said. I promise, we're not going to steal anything. We just want to check on Dad's... But the monkey just screamed louder. Then Sadie had an idea. Look, Khufu, she said. Choreos. Ends with an O. Nobody can't say no to cinnamon Choreos. Khufu looked like he was in love. Then he snatched up the box and jumped over to the couch as if he'd forgotten all about them. Now how to crack this? Carter wondered. Didn't Amos mention something about a destroying spell? Sadie asked. What was it? Hadi? Bam! A blast of light shot out of Sadie's finger, causing the chains to shatter, and she wasn't even trying. Whoa, she said. Imagine what you could do with that spell on a person. Don't even think about it, Carter said. Let's just get the bag and get this over with. The library wasn't set up like your average modern-day library. Instead of books on shelves, there were cubby holes honeycombed all around the room. Julius's bag was just sitting on a table in the middle of the room. They emptied the bag and found a bunch of strings, a box containing a clay sculpture, and what seemed to be an old-fashioned painting set. There's nothing here, Carter said. At least, nothing that could give us some kind of clue. What about you, little man? Sadie said to the clay doll. Do you have anything useful? Of course, she was just joking, but then the sculpture became warm in her hands and shouted, I answer the call! Sadie dropped him, and he landed back in the box. What are you? She asked the clay doll. I am a Shopti, of course, the doll said. My master named me Doughboy, though I find that name rather insulting. You may call me Supreme Ruler who crushes his victims. Doughboy, Sadie said. You said your master. Did you mean Julius Kane? He's our father. He's been kidnapped, so we could really use some help. The master is gone? Doughboy exclaimed. Freedom! Oh, freedom, freedom, freedom! Enough already, Sadie said. I'm the mistress now, and you'll do as I ask. First off, what's a Shopti? The word simply means answerer, as even the stupidest slave could tell you. Wait a minute, Carter said. I remember Dad telling me about those. They were clay or wax statues Egyptians used to, do their chores once they go to the afterlife. Typical of humans, said Doughboy. Lazing around and making slaves do their work. If you already know, why ask me? I now declare my duties fulfilled. And the doll went silent and solid again. Wait, I have more questions. I wasn't done yet, Sadie complained. What just happened? Maybe he's got a timer or something, Carter guessed. Or maybe he can only answer one question a day? Not helping, Carter, Sadie said. Let's just look around. So, for the next few minutes, they searched the library. But instead of hard-covered books, the cubbyholes were filled with old-fashioned scrolls. The scrolls contained plenty of subjects like Alexander the Great, Cleopatra surrendering to Rome, the plagues of Egypt, but so far, nothing seemed helpful. Then Carter said, Hey Sadie, look at this one. The scroll he picked up was nothing more than a picture filled with colorful people. One large blue lady was arching over 5 smaller people, as if trying to protect them. Sadie took a long look at the smaller people.
There was a man with green skin and wearing a hat shaped like a bowling pin. Then there was a pretty woman with dark hair and multicolored wings. Next to her was a man with a bird's head. Sadie couldn't decide on what the red-skinned man's animal head was. A dog, an anteater, an evil bunny rabbit. And then the fifth one was a woman in a blue dress. Then there was also a larger man below them, and his body seemed to be made of dirt and plant life. "Sadie, this is it!" Carter exclaimed. "The 5 gods! Remember when the red man said Dad released all 5? These are them! The 5 children of Nut and Geb! Look, the one at the bottom is Geb, their father, the earth god, and then this blue lady is the mom, Nut, the goddess of the sky." "A goddess named Nut?" Sadie giggled. "What was her last name? Case?" "Very funny," Carter said. "Anyway, these smaller gods are their children. The green one's Osiris, the god of the Egyptian afterlife. The winged lady is Isis, the goddess of magic. The birdman is Horus, the god of revenge. The red one is Set, the god of evil. He's like the main villain of Egyptian mythology. I don't think it's a coincidence that Set is red and the guy who sent Dad away is red. If he's that same god, we may be in bigger trouble than we thought. And the lady in blue is, Nephis. Yeah, the goddess of rivers. I always forget that one." "And how does this help us?" Sadie asked. "Remember how we were suggesting earlier that Dad was trying to bring Mom back from the dead? Well, could it be a coincidence that Dad tried to specifically summon Osiris, the actual god of the dead, last night? And remember what Amos said about the House of Life making it their job to imprison gods? Dad obviously tried to free Osiris, but what he may not have realized was that he released all 5 of these gods. Still sounds too good to be true. That it could be a way to bring Mum back," Sadie said. "Yeah, maybe," Carter said, "but there's still something else that bugs me. Something about how Dad told the red man they'll stop you before the demon days." "What's that?" Sadie asked. "Well, it's just a story," Carter said, "but it tells people why there are 365 days in a year. You see, once the Sun King Ra had like a vision that Nut and Geb would have a child who would overpower him. To keep that from happening, Ra used his godly power to prevent her from giving birth to a single baby any day of the year forever, even though she was kind of already pregnant with 5 babies at once. So they went to find help from the moon god Hansu, who offered them a chance to gamble moonlight. They won enough moonlight for 5 extra days in a year. So Nut gave birth to 1 child each day for the next 5 days. And they say that's why there are now 365 days in a year." "So what you're saying is," Sadie asked, "I'm saying those extra 5 days are the last days of the year, and if the story applies with our situation, they start after the day after tomorrow." "But what did Dad mean when he said they will stop you? Who's they? You don't think he meant us, do you?" "Maybe," Carter said, "or maybe the other gods. I remember in my dream the red man said Osiris is in prison and the other 2 are occupied by the younglings. But who was he referring to as the other 2? Then, a loud noise, like multiple things breaking, came from the living room. There was glass on the floor, and out the window, they saw 2 monsters cornering Philip. They both looked like some sort of weird breed between a reptile and a wildcat. The kids watched as the 2 monsters got ready to pounce on Philip. Then, unexpectedly, Philip managed to grab both of them and roll his way over to the side of the pool and over the edge of the building, still holding on to the monsters. "Did he just sacrifice himself to protect us?" Sadie said, "and I thought Amos said something about spells protecting the house." "Sadie," Carter said, "from what I remember in my dream, the red man said he was going to send sepropods to tear the place down and capture us. Those things were them. Amos probably didn't realize how strong the red man's magic was, and if I'm right, those things won't be the only things coming here." Bam! One of the sepropods must have survived the fall and climbed back up. Khufu jumped on it and tried to attack, but the creature flung him off, sending him over the side of the building. Carter grabbed a sword from the wall and threw it at the monster, but its reflexes were too good.
Carter? Sadie asked. Any more ideas?
Wait, he said. Didn't Amos say something about Muffin protecting us?
I still don't know what to make of that,
Sadie answered.
Tell your cat to do something,
Carter shouted.
What? Just do it.
Sadie hesitated as she looked down at Muffin.
Muffin? I command you to protect us.
Then, the last thing they could ever expect just happened. Muffin spun around and blinding light filled the room. When the light died, where Muffin had just been standing, they saw a woman. She had dark, flawless skin and black hair tied back in a tight bun. For some reason, she was wearing what appeared to be a leopard-patterned bodysuit and carried a dagger in each hand. She was kind of pretty, in a cat-like sort of way. "Well, it's about time," the woman said. Then she turned to the monster, and the kids watched as she sliced and diced away like a crazy person. Then the woman stepped back, and the creature turned to dust. "So good to be back in human form," she said.
Who the bloody heck are you?"
Sadie asked, shockingly. "Oh, I think Carter knows that answer," she said.
"You're Bast," Carter answered. "The Bast."
"Yes, Carter," the woman confirmed. "I am Bast, the Queen of Cats. Now, I suggest we get moving before more enemies arrive," she continued. "And Carter, you might want to bring that sword. I have a feeling you'll need it again soon enough. And you're especially going to need your father's work bag where we're going." After gathering their stuff, they followed Bast down the fire escape, over the fence, and to the street. She walked over to a sports car parked on the side of the road and ripped off the roof with her bare hands.
"What the heck are you doing?"
Carter exclaimed. "I love the wind in my fur," she said. "Plus we cannot escape on foot, and Amos took his boat with him."
"We don't even know whose car that is,"
Carter said. Boom. Behind them, the mansion exploded and was now covered in flames.
"Carter, we can worry about how to return it later," Sadie called. "Now come on."
Bast hotwired the car, and they zoomed down the road. On the way, Bast mentioned the obelisk in Central Park, and that Sadie could use it to open a portal for them to escape. "We usually try to avoid Manhattan," she said, "but now we have no choice now that the house is destroyed."
"Why can't you just make one?" Sadie asked. "Aren't you a goddess?"
"Well, I would, but my power on this side of the Duat is limited."
"I still can't believe this whole time you've been pretending to be my pet," Sadie argued. "Honestly, all these years I let you sleep on my head, I fed you treats, and I literally cleaned out your litter box."
"My job mainly was to keep a close watch on you on your father's behalf," Bast explained. "It's the least I could have done after your mother's passing."
"Oh my gosh," Sadie said. "That's it, isn't it? Mom and Dad formed some sort of ritual at the Needle, but something went wrong and they released you instead."
"I promise I will explain everything," Bast said, "but right now we have to get to safety." Minutes later, they zoomed down 5th Avenue, turned into 79th Street, going into Central Park. Seconds after driving down into East Drive, they stopped in front of the obelisk. "All right, Sadie, we better hurry," Bast said.
"Why is it best for me to do it?" Sadie asked. "You're the goddess."
"We cats were never really good with portals," Bast answered. "We usually just serve as protectors. Just control your emotions. Remember, panic or fear can kill a spell. We must hurry. We don't know how long Set's other forces will catch up to us."
"Isn't there a way to summon the other 4 gods that Dad released?" Carter asked. "Osiris, Horus, Isis, the other one? Maybe they can help. They're the good guys, right?"
"That's a good question, Carter," Bast answered, but the presence of gods are usually what you might call complicated. As for whether the gods are good or evil, may not be the best way to think of them. As a magician, you think about chaos and order. After all, those are the two forces that control the universe. What? Most gods are about order, while Set is about chaos. Then, a stray cat appeared next to them and meowed something that Boss didn't like. An enemy is close, Boss said. They're here in the park. Who? Carter asked. How close? Bam! From behind the bushes, out popped a half-woman, half-scorpion creature. Carter knew exactly who this was. Serket, the queen of scorpions. From behind her came a swarm of regular-sized scorpions. Seriously? Sadie asked. A scorpion queen? Boss ordered the kids to run, and then she started glowing green and rose up into the air. She was encased in a tall glowing body made of green light, a cat-headed avatar. Get to the Metropolitan Museum, she shouted. You can use the Temple of Dindur to make a portal there. Come on, Sadie, Carter demanded. But we can't just leave her, Sadie begged. But Carter tugged her along anyway, as the cat goddess went one-on-one with the Scorpion Queen. Lucky for them, the museum was just across the street. Not to mention the place was conveniently open despite the fact that it was Christmas. As soon as they dashed inside, at least one or two security guards noticed them and chased them. They probably caught them rushing in without getting tickets, or they were questioning Carter's sword, or probably both. By dumb luck, they shook them off their tail just before they made it to the Egyptian wing, but there was no telling how long until they caught up. There, they saw the temple. Thankfully, no one else was in the room. Now's our chance, said Carter. Maybe we can do it inside where no one can see. But as they were about to cross the doorway, something caused them to trip and fall. When they picked themselves up, they saw that what tripped them was a staff held by the same girl from the British Museum? You! Carter cried. Get back! He pointed his sword at her, but she flicked it away with a spell from her wand as fast as lightning. Don't bother embarrassing yourselves any further, she said sternly. Now where is Amos? Carter wasn't sure why he didn't notice at first, but the girl seemed surprisingly beautiful, in an intimidating sort of way. She looked kind of like an Egyptian princess, with her eyeliner and flawless caramely skin and beautiful hair, and her eyes seemed like they were sparkling. Because of this, Carter was at a loss for words. He's gone, Sadie said. And might I ask who you are? I am Zia Rashid, the girl said, and right now it is my job unfortunately, to save your miserable lives. She pointed her staff at the arch across from them, and a glowing circle of sand appeared out of thin air. How did you do that so quickly? Sadie asked. Years of practice, Zia said. Also, portals can only be open at certain times. Midnight, midday, sunset, sunrise, eclipses, planet alignments, a certain god's birthday, etc. Lucky for us, it's midday now. Why should we even trust you? Sadie asked. You stalked us around London, and as I recall, your boss or whatever wanted us dead. Yes, that might have been easier, said Zia. But recently my superiors believe you are innocent. Also, we cannot afford to let you fall into the hands of the Red Lord. So unless you want to take your chances with the police alone again, and eventually give the Red Lord time to catch up, I suggest that you come with me. The two siblings took one look at each other, and together they followed the mysterious girl through the portal. When they jumped through the other side, they found themselves in a dark hallway. Zia led them around the corner into a wide-open hallway with columns. Floating between the columns were what looked like a bunch of glowing holographic images, some of which Carter could recognize. There were images of the gods, possibly around the time before humans existed. Then, there were images of the pyramids under construction. There were also images of a bunch of pharaohs, including Khufu, Narmer, Hatshepsut, and King Tut. Other images showed Moses leading the Hebrews to freedom. Alexander the Great traveling to Egypt, Cleopatra with Caesar, even Howard Carter, as he was discovering King Tut's tomb. Okay, you want to tell us where you brought us to exactly? Sadie asked Zia. Is this some sort of bat cave of yours? We are now in the halls of the first gnome, and we are about to see the chief lector, Zia answered. He's the one in charge here, so you better behave yourselves, unless you want to be turned into insects. Minutes later, they stopped in front of a dais with a small empty throne in the middle. At the foot of the throne sat the oldest man they ever saw. He had dark, wrinkly skin, and his eyes were so white and milky, Carter wondered if the man was blind. He held a white staff in one hand and wore a leopard skin cloak over his white robes. Next to him was the same Frenchman with the creepy facial hair from the British Museum. Then the old man spoke in some strange language they didn't understand. Then the Frenchman seemed to translate for the old man and said, My master the chief lector Iskander welcomes you both to the house of life. And I am Riordan, the Frenchman continued. Then Carter, without thinking, asked, if he's the one in charge, why isn't he sitting on the throne? The Frenchman scowled, but the old man just chuckled and muttered something else. Again, Desjardins translated for the old man and explained how the throne was only for the pharaoh, while the chief lector only served to protect the pharaoh, and the throne had been vacant since the fall of Egypt. Therefore, he only sits at the foot of the throne. If he can understand us, what language is he speaking? Carter asked. The chief lector knows many languages, Desjardins said, including English, and Arabic, and Greek, and French, even Latin, but he prefers his birth tongue, Alexandrian Greek. What? But that's impossible. Didn't that language die out like millennia ago? Carter asked. That is not important, the Frenchman growled. We are here to discuss your parents' past crimes. Your father attempted to release the gods to the world twice. Lucky for the both of you, my master and I have talked it over and come to an agreement, and we will not hold you to responsible. At least not until we have investigated you further. Thanks, Carter said. Do not mock our generosity, boy, Desjardins growled. There's still the matter of finding the gods your father released, and now your uncle is still missing. Our fellow magicians are searching for him as we speak. As for you two, the chief lector has ordered us to keep you both here where you will be safe and receive the proper training. But we can't just sit here. We have to find our dad, Carter insisted. He and Sadie then explained to them about the scene with Set appearing at the museum, and Amos going to find Set's whereabouts, and Carter's dream of Set planning to build a pyramid in Arizona. They didn't give the full detail. They left out some parts because, well, they felt like something was holding them back, like their conscience trying to warn them. As if to say, keep your mouth shut unless you want them to execute us both on sight. When Desjardins heard the part about the pyramid, he scowled and said, You are lying. It would take a very powerful host to accomplish that. Listen, you, Sadie shouted. I don't know what this rubbish is about host, but I did not lose my father and uncle and kiss my old life goodbye and get traumatized by monsters and gods and let my cat Boss just give her life to protect us just so I could be brought here to be called a liar. So, you admit to be consulting with gods, Desjardins said. That makes our investigation much easier. Then Zia finally stepped forward and spoke up. Master, please, give me a chance with them. They've encountered Circuit. If more gods have escaped... Do not forget your place, Zia, Desjardins scowled. Must I remind you the gods caused the fall of Egypt. These two are guilty and must be... Then the chief lector finally spoke up in Alexandrian Greek again. Desjardins looked like he was about to explode, but he found his voice and translated. The chief lector says he will allow Zia to test the two of you. In the meantime, I will seek out the truth, or the lies, in your story. The Frenchman marched out, leaving the old leaving the kids alone with the old man without another word. Zia bowed to him, and the Kane kids followed her example. Then the chief lector muttered something that only Zia understood, and she gestured the siblings to walk back down the hall. "I will show you two where you will be staying tonight," she said. "Your testing will start in the morning. We will see what magic you know, and how you know it." "Right, and if we fail this test?" Sadie asked. Zia regarded her coldly and answered, "This isn't the sort of test you fail, Sadie Kane. You pass, or you die." Zia showed Sadie to the girls' dorm, and Carter to the boys' dorm. Carter shared his room with about a dozen other young boys. He got his own bed cot along with a set of linen sleepwear. By bedtime, he fell right to sleep. He used the headrest this time, but for whatever the reason, it didn't stop him from dreaming again. Carter saw Amos inside a cavern, and suddenly he was swarmed by demons. They pulled him further into the cavern, and Carter woke up before he could see what happened next. Carter decided he needed some air and snuck out. Before too long, he saw Zia running around the halls too, and for some reason she had what looked like a black cloud floating over her, and of course he followed. Zia continued on, until she came to one wall, pressed her hand against it, and made a magically hidden opening appear. Carter tiptoed behind her and followed her to a small room, where she sat on her knees in front of a stone altar. Carter watched as she cupped her hands together and whispered something Carter couldn't make out. Then a tiny blue light appeared in her hands, flew up and through the ceiling, and the black cloud disappeared. "Shouldn't you be in bed?" Zia asked. Carter realized too late. She was aware of his presence sooner than even he noticed. How embarrassing. "I'm so sorry. I didn't even mean to spy, I swear," Carter panicked. "I just saw you running around with this weird cloud around you, and..." "You saw that?" Zia asked. "Impossible. I was just worried you might be in trouble." "Trouble? Well, that's true enough," she said sadly. She stared at the pictures decorating the altar, and Carter only just noticed some of them. One picture showed Zia as a little girl standing in front of a mud brick house. Another wide picture showed a village on the Nile, and another one showed little Zia with her parents. "Your folks seem nice," he said. "Is that home?" She looked like she wanted to get angry, but she controlled herself. "It was," she answered. "It's no longer there." She told him how her entire village had burned down back while she was still little. She had been the only one to survive, and the chief lector took her in. She also mentioned that her dad made a living by digging up old relics and accidentally brought home a relic containing demons, and how Iskander tried to help her remember. But no matter how hard she tried, for some reason, Zia just couldn't remember anything at all. Carter thought for a moment. Parents studying relics, losing parents at such a young age? It all seemed a little too familiar. "It's fine," Zia said. "I'm okay being alone." In truth, Carter probably would have said the same thing if anyone asked him, but he'd only be lying. "Tell you what," he told Zia, "after the testing, after the demon days, when things settle down, I'm gonna take you to the mall." "The mall? Why?" she asked. "You know, to have some fun," he said. "We could, get something to eat, check out some stores, maybe see a movie." "Is this what you call a date?" she asked. His expression was priceless. No, I didn't mean it like that," he said. I just thought you could use a break, or..." "You're sweet, Carter," she said, chuckling. "But things won't settle down." She then convinced him he'd been out of bed for too long, and so he stepped out. He wanted to ask her more, but she shut the door on him. Meanwhile, Sadie also had trouble sleeping. She could only stay lying awake in bed, wondering about those images in the halls. Minutes later, she decided to give up on resisting, hop out of bed, and go check them out. She wasn't sure what came over her, and made her so obsessed with all this. It wasn't like her to get excited about learning magic tricks. She wasn't one for dreaming of going to House of Life School of Witchcraft and God Summoning. But her instincts told her there was some sort of info she could use somehow, which was contained in those images. She looked around until she saw one image that looked a lot like a picture of a party. She took a step closer. It was so big and had such good quality, it looked almost as if Sadie could step right into it. Before she knew it, she did step right into it. There were a whole bunch of different people in the room, some fully human, some with animal heads, some in full animal form, and others with very colorful complexions. Sadie realized she was in the palace of the gods. Across the room, sitting on the throne, was a handsome dark-skinned man dressed in a white tunic and a tall hat shaped like a bowling pin. He also had... Oh my gosh, Sadie thought. The man looked exactly like her dad. He had his exact same face and brown eyes and goatee, even his same voice. Sadie wondered if she were looking at one of Dad's ancestors. Next to him was a beautiful woman, who was also dressed in white, and were those bird wings on her back? Sadie forgot how to breathe for a second. The woman looked almost exactly like Sadie's mom. Ignoring her dark hair and different eye color, the woman's face looked exactly like Sadie's mom's face, perhaps a bit younger looking than Sadie had ever seen. Sadie wanted to walk over and say hello, when suddenly the door swung open behind her, and there was Set. Behind her, 4 demons carried a familiar golden coffin.
Set! The king called. What is the meaning of this?
Why, can't I celebrate my own brother's birthday by bringing some entertainment? Set asked. I have brought the opportunity of a lifetime, brother.
He explained how the coffin would increase the potential 10 times greater to the one who lays in it. But only one would fit in it perfectly. Everyone pushed each other trying to hop into the coffin, but everyone was either too big or too small. Not even changing their shape or size didn't help somehow.
Well, that's too bad, Set said. You haven't tried yet, brother.
The king took a step forward, but his queen put a hand on his shoulder with a look of worry.
It's only a game, my love,
the king said. Sadie then decided that whatever era this was, it was most likely a time when most didn't know Set much better than she did, because the king seemed totally in the dark. She wanted to call to him and warn him, but no one could see or hear her. The king walked over, climbed in, and then... Slam! A lid appeared out of thin air and slammed down shut on the coffin, trapping the king inside. Both the queen and Sadie cried out in unison. Then the coffin fell through the fiery hole in the floor and disappeared. Everyone screamed and ran for their lives.
You're next,
Set said, pointing to the queen. Just then, a woman in blue tried to tackle Set, giving the queen a chance to escape. She flew out through the balcony and into the night sky, but seconds later, Set was flying right behind her and grabbed her by the leg.
Your son shall never be reborn,
he yelled. 1 minute, the queen was screaming with her hands cupping her face, and then the next minute, Sadie felt her arm being pulled and she found herself in the hallway again. Sadie didn't realize at first, but she could have sworn at the last minute she'd seen the last couple of seconds of the scene literally through the queen's eyes. Just then she processed she was sitting on her bum with the chief lector standing next to her.
That wasn't very smart,
he said in perfect English.
Your existence was seconds away from fading completely.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I was just drawn to the pictures, she said.
Yes. They are hard to resist sometimes, the old man said. It is dangerous for any mortal to look upon the time of the gods, even for me. And yet, you survived.
I must say, you speak surprisingly good English, Sadie said.
How do you know I am speaking English and you are not speaking Alexandrian Greek? He said, smiling. I am just joking, my dear, he chuckled.
I remember Carter saying how that language was like millennia old, Sadie said. No offense, but you can't possibly be that old, can you?
Ah, but I am exactly 2 millennia old, my dear, he answered.
What? Come on, no one can live that long, said Sadie.
I promise you I am not lying, my dear, he said. I was there when Egypt lost to the Romans and the house was forced underground. Many of our most powerful secrets were lost, including the spells my master used to extend my life.
Then Sadie asked about the image with Set chasing Isis. He told her that Isis did eventually manage to escape, and later on she gave birth to her son Horus. Later in life, Horus got revenge on Set, and Osiris was resurrected. Then Sadie said, what I don't understand is, from what Carter told me, those gods were all brothers and sisters. You know, the children of Nut and Geb. Which story is true? Iskander assured her that both stories were true, and it just depended on what sort of host the gods took on.
This can be confusing sometimes for those who do not know the full nature of gods, he said. You see, gods have great power, but only humans truly possess creativity. Therefore, the gods cannot walk this earth very long without host. You see, the first time the gods walked the earth, they were siblings simply because their hosts were siblings. But humans can only live for so long, so they had to move on. In a later lifetime, they found new hosts who were husband and wife and had a child together. You see how that works?
I think so, said Sadie. It is a bit confusing and kind of gross when you think about it.
Gods really don't think of relationships the same as humans, Iskander said. They look at us like a change of clothes, you might say, or pets.
But that doesn't explain why this hosting thing is bad, Sadie said.
The gods have agendas much different from humans. They can overpower their hosts, sometimes enough to burn them out and shatter their minds. It could explain why rulers of Egypt die so young, like King Thoth or Cleopatra. In the old days, students could study the path of many of the gods, learn to channel their power, or even call them for their help. Some even tried to purposely become their host. But many destroyed themselves trying. When Egypt fell to the Romans, it became clear that no human could master a god's power except
the blood of the pharaohs, Sadie guessed.
Iskander smiled. You are quite a remarkable student, just like your mother.
You knew her? Sadie asked, shockingly.
She was an old student of mine, as well as your father. She had the gift of divination, the power to see the future, and she was the first in centuries. She saw things that made her seek advice from unconventional places that even I have found questionable.
What do you mean? Sadie asked.
Well, my point is, my dear, is that you and your brother have a hard path ahead of you, and he will need your guidance. And when the time comes, you will also require Zia's help. She is my best student and very wise. She will have quite a role to play. This I am certain of. For now, you should get some rest, my dear, and I sense that I, too, can rest at last.
He gently tapped her on the head with his staff, and Sadie felt dizzy and weak. She couldn't remember going back to bed, but the next morning she had been woken up with a big splash. Zia dumped a bucket of ice-cold water on Sadie's bed.
What the bloody heck was that for?
She asked furiously.
To cleanse you,
Zia said, to prepare you for training. It took her a moment to notice that they were the only ones in the room. The other students probably left to start the day and go on ahead for lessons.
Can I at least get some breakfast first?
She asked.
We'll see,
Zia said, if you survive first. She decided more complaints would just get her nowhere, so, after getting a quick cup of water, she followed her to another room where Carter was waiting for them. He seemed to frown in Zia's direction, but before Sadie could ask, Zia leaned in front of her with a paintbrush.
Time to prepare your tattoo,
Zia said.
Really?
Sadie asked.
On your tongue,
said Zia.
No thank you?
It's supposed to help you speak magic clearly, Zia explained. Even one slight mistake with a spell, and, let me guess, will die, Sadie guessed. So, she let Zia proceed. When the ink touched Sadie's tongue, it felt worse than she expected. She felt as if she'd just licked a hot, sticky tire covered in gasoline.
Forget breakfast. I just lost my appetite, she said.
After they got their markings done, Carter got his sword back as well as his dad's magic bag and was given his own wand. Sadie also received a wand of her own, as well as her own magic kit. Then, Zia opened a portal to what looked like an ancient Egyptian courtyard in the middle of nowhere.
Hey, this is the Temple of Luxor, Carter said.
He pointed to the large entrance with the giant pharaoh statues. There was also an obelisk on one side. It seemed like there were two of them before, but now the second one was missing. The missing one's in Paris, you know, he told Sadie.
I wish I were in Paris right now,
Sadie muttered.
Anyway, I thought they were in New York and London.
That's a different pair, Carter said. As they kept walking, they thought there could be tourists around, but Zia assured them that her masters made special arrangements so no one would bother them. It's a good place for magicians to come train in combat, Zia said. Even after all this time, it is still very full of powerful magic. She directed Carter and Sadie to stand 10 meters apart from each other.
Wait, we're gonna duel each other? What if we get hurt?
Sadie asked. We'll start simple, Zia said. Let's just see who knocks the other down first.
But we haven't been trained yet,
said Sadie. This is not school, Zia said. One cannot learn magic from sitting at a desk and taking notes. You can only learn magic by simply doing magic. Just use whatever you have available. Now, begin. The siblings looked at one another. Then Sadie pulled out something that shouldn't have fit in her small bag, a staff. Then she thought of the word, fire. A huge current of fire shot out from her staff and into Carter's direction, and then Carter deflected the flame, not just with his blade, but surrounding Carter's body was a glowing bird-headed avatar made of cosmic energy, protecting him from the flames. The flames broke apart, and the avatar vanished. The siblings just stared at each other, wondering if it was a mirage from the heat.
Did that really just happen?
Sadie wondered. They just noticed that Zia was so shocked her staff was in the sand.
It can't be, Zia said. You summoned the falcon. You two really are hosting gods.
Again with the hosting? Sadie asked. Really?
Don't you understand? Zia asked. Didn't you wonder why Riordan was so suspicious of you two? The chief lector will expect me to turn you in, and I will have to obey, and you will be...
What? Carter asked. Executed? But we've done nothing wrong. Look, you saw what happened at the museum. We're not the problem. Set is.
You both have broken the ancient laws of the house, Zia said.
Zia, wait, Sadie said. Look, I spoke with Iskandar last night. He told me that Carter and I have a hard path ahead of us. He also said that when the time comes, we would need your help specifically, and that you had a big role to play too. Zia's entire body was clenching, but then she relaxed and said,
Go. Use the obelisk at the front.
What?
Use it to make a portal and get out of here. They should be on their way by now to take you away. The demon days begin at sundown. Portals will stop working by then. You must get to as close to Set as possible before that happens.
Come with us, Carter begged.
I cannot betray the house, said Zia. Go now, before it's too late.
Sadie grabbed her brother, and they ran for the obelisk. The problem was, they still had no idea how to make a portal. They didn't even get the chance to figure it out both times they tried back in New York. If anything, portal making should have been their first lesson. Wait, Carter, you said the other obelisk is in Paris, right? Sadie asked him. Well, yeah, so? Carter asked. Sadie tried raising her hands with her staff and wand and said, Paris! I'd like to go to Paris. 2 tickets. First class would be nice. Please? The obelisk glowed purple, and a sand tunnel swirled right in front of them. Just then, across the row of sphinxes, another portal appeared, and out walked Desjardins. But the strange part was that Desjardins was carrying Iskandar's same staff and was wearing his same leopard cloak. Why was he wearing the chief lector's clothes? Before Carter could say anything, Sadie grabbed him and they jumped through the portal, and it closed behind them just in time. When they came out the other side, they were standing in Place de la Concorde. Behind them, they heard a small meow and turned around to find a familiar cat. The cat transformed once again into their old cat goddess friend, Bast. "Miss me?" she asked. They moved their conversation down the street to the nearby park. Bast assured them that Desjardins and the others wouldn't look for them here, and they would assume they would have gone anywhere else. "They might assume you would have been foolish to flee to Desjardins' hometown," she continued. It took them a moment to remember that Desjardins was French, and it sort of made sense. "Also, your amulets not only protect you from physical harm, but they also cloak you from your enemies," Bast continued. "As for how I found you, well, I can find Sadie anywhere due to my promise to your father." "How did you get past the scorpions?" Sadie asked. She explained how she held off Circuit as long as she could, and eventually found the right time to slip into the duat again. "Yes, I may not be good with portals," she continued, "but there are other ways in and out of the duat. It has many different regions and layers: the abyss, the river of night, the land of the dead, the land of demons, etc. When opening a portal, you pass through the duat to connect one part of the mortal world to another." "What if you'd been killed?" Carter asked. "Well, I would have been vanquished to the duat, and it would have taken me centuries to regenerate before I could ever return to the mortal world again. I am a creature of the duat, after all. Oh, by the way, I do apologize 1,000 times if I may have taken a bit long to catch up to you, but it got so much harder when the house had beaten me to you and kidnapped you." "Well, I wouldn't say they kidnapped us exactly," said Carter. "Really, Carter? How long did you stay there before they decided to execute you?" Bast asked. About a day." They've gotten much friendlier in the last century. They used to blast godlings in the first few minutes." "Wait," Carter said. "What did you call us?" "Godlings," Sadie said. "That's what we are, aren't we? That's why Zia thought we were hosting gods, why I already knew about Blood of the Pharaohs, and why they wanted to kill us." "What? No way," Carter said. "I think I'd know if I were—" Then he thought about the voice in his head. Carter thought it was just a coincidence before. But now that he thought of it, just minutes ago he was suddenly able to fight with a sword and summon magic armor. Those were not things he practiced in homeschool. He thought about how his dad released the 5 gods when he destroyed the Rosetta Stone. If Osiris had chosen Dad, then where were the other 4? Then he remembered how Amos told them how their family had a long history with the gods. Sadie mentioned how she and Iskander were discussing how humans can't perfectly host gods unless they were what they called Blood of the Pharaohs. Carter thought about their amulets. Sadie's was the Knot of Isis, and his, of course, was the Eye of Horus. Could that have really been more than just a big coincidence? Then he thought about the voice in his head again, a voice that was definitely not his. He was afraid to try, but then he said to himself, hello? Horus?
Well, well, a strong voice said. It's about time we've made introductions. Hello, Carter Kane. Yes, it is I, Horus, the Prince of the Skies.
Ah! Somebody call an exorcist! There's a burn man in my head!
Carter panicked. "Carter, calm down," said Boss. "Look, it's not possession. Horus does not have 100% control. You and him were already cooperating before, even if you did not know it. How else do you explain the Avatar back in Luxor? You're basically sharing space. Same goes for you, Sadie. Both you and Horus have the same goal, Carter. You lost your father and want revenge on Set just as Horus did millennia ago. Why else do you think he had chosen you? And now it's up to you to save your father with the power of Horus and defeat Set. And you, Sadie, you must be there at his side. I am here now. I will guide you both." You could just give me full control and save yourself the trouble, Horus said in Carter's head. Not gonna happen, said Carter. Anyway, we have other problems. He reminded them how gods couldn't go too far without a host, so they can only assume Set could have picked someone nearby. He also reminded them how Desjardins was at the museum when the 5 gods were freed. If Osiris picked Dad and Horus picked Carter and Isis picked Sadie, who could Set have picked? You're suggesting that he chose Desjardins? Sadie asked. He wants you two dead, said Bast, and Set wanted Horus and Isis dead. It would only make sense. By Ra's throne, Kata, I pray that you're wrong. Whatever Set's planning, he'll do it on his birthday, 3 days from now. She then suggested they could stop Set by using a special book called the Book of Thoth, and that they should hurry before sunrise. The bad part, Boss continued, it's here in Paris. In Desjardins' house. Boss knew exactly where the house was, so they got there in a jiffy. It was just a couple of blocks away from the Lavier. As soon as Carter saw it, he hated Desjardins even more. It looked like a place where Dracula would go for vacation, if he liked France. Carter mentioned how it looked suspicious for Desjardins to have a red door, given that it was the color of Set. In other words, the color of evil. Sadie thought black was the evil color, but Boss corrected her. Easily common mistake these days, dear, she said. It's the color of soil. You can grow food with soil, so therefore black is good. Right, so who wants to go in first? Then Boss mentioned one problem. She told him that the mansion would have spells that would keep out unwelcome gods, just like before with Amos's house. Without the owner's permission, she herself could never get in. Boss also told them that they would have no effect because they were only hosting gods, while she herself had full control over Muffin. You see the difference? She asked them. No, I can't, said Sadie. Boss then suggested turning themselves into birds, then they could fly up to the balcony and make their way in. All they had to do was picture it in their minds. It shouldn't be too hard for you two, given that both Horus and Isis are gods of the air, Boss said. In his mind, Carter asked, Horus, you still there? What? Bird form, please. Oh, I see. You don't trust me, but you need my powers. Come on, man. Do you want to save Dad or not? Fair enough, Horus said. Carter closed his eyes, and for a moment, he felt his body getting a little warm. He opened his eyes and, what the falcon? Carter was a falcon. Next to him, Sadie turned into a white kite. You know, the type of bird of prey, not like an actual paper kite. Ooh, you two look wonderful, Boss said. Now, off you go then, before I lose control and before we get caught. Carter wasn't sure how he did it, but he and Sadie spread their wings and up they went. Carter never felt so good. He had always dreamed of being able to fly. They aimed for the balcony door, and before they had time to think, they flew right through it, like it wasn't even there. You're doing great, Horus said in his mind. With our strength combined, you were able to push through the magical barriers. They found themselves in a rather old-timey library. Edgar Allan Poe might have enjoyed this place. Carter had already changed back to human, but for some reason Sadie remained in bird form. You can change back now, he told her. She let out a frustrated croak. Carter could only take it as a sign something was wrong. Well, alright. We'll ask Boss for help with that later, Carter said. Just keep watch for me. I'll look around. Carter searched the shelves for what seemed like hours. But most of the books were in French and hardly any were in English or hieroglyphic. He wasn't even sure if he would even know the book when he saw it. Then he had an idea. It was a big if, since it wasn't a familiar library, but he pulled out the same clay doll from his dad's bag and asked, Hey, doughboy, you think you could help me find the Book of Thoth? He opened his eyes and said, That is child's play. It's right over there. He pointed to a blue book with a gold spine right next to Carter. As soon as Carter tugged on it, he could have sworn the room shook for a slight second. Then the door exploded with fruit bats. They swirled around Carter like a ripe fruit. Then Sadie tried to distract them, and Carter had just enough time to shove the book and Doughboy into his bag, turn into a bird again, and they flew out the balcony. They landed safely next to where Boss was waiting, and they both turned human again once they hit the ground. "Quick, to the Levere," Boss said. She picked them both up, and she ran like a cheetah 3 large blocks down. "1 minute before sundown," Boss warned. "Quickly now." "But this thing's made of glass," Sadie said. "It's not even Egyptian." "That doesn't matter," Boss said. "Just concentrate on where you want to go. Now hurry. They're coming." Where did Sadie want to go? Truthfully, she wanted to go back to her home in Canary Wharf, in her grandparents' flat. But she knew she couldn't. She packed up the courage and said, "America, please." The portal opened, and they jumped right in. They found themselves inside a small, plain gray room with small windows on each wall. Carter realized with a start, they were in America all right, at the top of the Washington Monument. "You didn't really pick a specific city, so we were given the default portal," Bast explained. "The Washington Monument is the country's most largest source of Egyptian magic." Suddenly, Sadie collapsed on the floor and her eyes rolled up in her head. Bast assured Carter that she would be alright and just needed rest. It probably should have made sense considering she had summoned flames, opened 2 portals halfway across the world, turned into a bird, had trouble changing back, and got overwhelmed by fruit bats all in one day. Boss mentioned how using that much magic in so little time could easily drain any magician. All that should have been enough to suck any human dry. She also assured Carter that they had plenty of time to rest, considering they were now in an earlier time zone than Paris, and it was now late afternoon. She promised she would keep watch and encouraged him to rest too. And so he did. Sadie couldn't remember falling asleep, but she started to have her first bar trip, just like Carter did. She was now flying over the now nighttime skyline of Washington, D.C., but was too distracted by her own glowing bird form. She thought she'd be prepared for this, but she decided she couldn't accept this. It was bad enough she turned into a real bird before and almost couldn't change back. She shut her eyes, and with the single thought, "Bop," she willed her body back to human form. She was still floating over the city and started to fly higher. Seconds later, she heard a woman's voice whisper, "Sadie." "Mom?" Sadie hoped. "Oh, my dear child." The voice sounded close, but Sadie still couldn't see anyone. Then she looked straight up and could have sworn she could make out a face made from the stars in the sky. The face of a ginormous, dark blue-skinned woman. Her skin was the same color as the dark night sky. Her face and body was outlined with stars. Her lips looked like a small red cosmos. Her hair seemed to be made of black clouds, and her eyes looked like twin comets. You're the sky goddess," Sadie said. "Yes, my dear, I am Nat, bride of Geb, mother to Osiris, Set, Horus, Isis, Nephthys, and queen of the cosmos. Also, I've heard plenty of jokes about my name and enough to come to expect it, child. But that's not why I'm here. Both Isis and I know that." Are you inside a human host?" Sadie asked. "Oh no, child. I have no need for such things being the sky goddess," she answered. "The sky is my body. The House of Life has been after me for centuries, but they'll never catch me. Out here, I am free, and I only hope my children and the rest of the gods will have the same luxury soon enough and find their places in this modern world without the House of Life in the way." I don't think they would like that," Sadie said. "I heard how the gods caused the downfall of Egypt. No offense." "That," Nut said, "is a very old and weak and pointless debate. All empires fall eventually, child, but the idea of Egypt is eternal. The gods have known your family for millennia, Sadie. In the old days, we worked together for the benefit of Egypt, and now it's your turn."
Let me guess, it's up to me and my no-good brother to defeat Set? Sadie guessed. But is it that simple? Nut asked. After all, Set is my child too. In the old days, he was Ra's lieutenant, you know. And with his help, Ra defeated the old Chaos Serpent Apophis, one of the oldest incarnations of Chaos. He has hated creation since the very moment the first bit of earth rose out from beneath the ocean. He did not care for anyone, not humans or the gods or anything in the whole universe, and with Set's help, we had successfully vanquished him the first time. And then Set turned evil? Sadie asked. Set has always been Set, for better or worse, Nut said, but he is still family. It is difficult to lose any family member, is it not? That's hardly fair, said Sadie. Please don't speak to me of fairness, Nut said. For so many millennia I've been forced to stay separated from my beloved. She then told Sadie how Ra punished her for having children, and Ra ordered Nut's own father, Shu, the god of the wind, to keep her and her husband, Geb, apart. Geb was imprisoned in the earth, while she was exiled to the sky. Sadie could hear the heartbreak in Nut's voice. Okay, so back to defeating Set? Sadie asked. It will most likely not be the way you expect, Nut said. Seek out help from Thoth in Memphis, Tennessee, and there you might find what you need. But be warned, child, he can be hard to predict and may ask for favors sometimes. I can promise you safe travel as far as Tennessee, being the sky goddess, but that's all I can offer you. She snapped her fingers. Then, a stack of 3 first-class tickets appeared in Sadie's hands, along with an envelope. I suggest you hurry, said Nut, for I sense Set's minions close by. Wait, what's this envelope for? Sadie asked. When you see my husband, you'll know, Nut said. Without another word, she snapped her fingers and Sadie woke up. Airport! She shouted suddenly. Tennessee! Memphis! Thoth! Hurry! We're not getting out easy, Boss said. It's here at the doorstep. The Set animal. Out the window and on the ground, right at the foot of the monument, was the scariest dog they ever saw. It had black fur, ice cream cone-shaped ears, and even from high up they could see its eyes glowing. It also had a long extra snout and dangerous-looking teeth, and it was about the size of an elephant. Boss, how do we get out of here? Carter asked. You don't understand, Boss said. The Set animal is the perfect hunter. If it has our scent, there's no escaping it. Boss told them that she would jump down and distract the monster while they would make it to the airport. No, I can't lose you again, Sadie said. But Boss broke open the window and jumped out anyway. The siblings looked down as she tackled the monster and rode it like a bull. Then they turned into birds again and headed for the airport. When they got there, and Carter changed back, Sadie seemed to have trouble doing the same again. Oh, not again, Carter said. Sadie, listen, I think there's a trick to the change, he told her. You see, when I did it, I thought about what's important. I thought about Mom and Dad and how much I want to see them again. How much I want us to be a family again and make things right again, just like Dad said. And how it all depends on us fulfilling this mission to save Dad and beating Set. Just focus your mind on that. It's worth a try. She looked in all directions and started chirping and picking at her wings. Okay, just take your time, but we can't stay here, Carter said. He let her stand on 2 of his fingers and they went inside. Just as he walked through the door, a security guard stopped him. Hey, kid, hold up a sec, he said. You can't have pets in here, and what are you doing with that sword? Oh snap, Carter thought. He totally forgot about his sword strapped on his back. Next to that, he had no explanation for why he was all alone, except with Sadie Bird, and he couldn't tell him the truth. Just when it seemed hopeless, and the guard was going to arrest him, he heard, Ah, Cotton dear, there you are. Boss had come in the nick of time, and for some reason, she had changed into a pantsuit and matching jacket. Kata, I told you to wait, she said, and I was going to carry the bird.
Excuse me, ma'am, is he yours? The guard asked.
Why, yes, officer, she answered. I am his
Aunt. Carter rushed in. She's my aunt. Aunt Kitty. She made a face at him like, I'll get you for that later. Anyway, the guard said, you can have that bird in here, and that's...
Ah, yes, the bird, Boss said. I have the paperwork here.
She handed him a sheet of paper and their tickets. The cop took a long look at the paperwork. Carter had no idea what the paper might have said, but the cop just said, you bought a first-class ticket for your bird? He asked.
Yes, always, Boss said. We're headed for a falconry competition in Memphis, and we don't want to be late.
Before he could reply, she just pulled Carter away and around a corner. She told Carter the set animal was going to catch up if they didn't hurry and get on the plane. Carter mentioned how Sadie had trouble changing back.
Well, we're short for time, so we can figure it out on the plane, Boss said.
Where did you get those clothes? Carter asked, and that paperwork?
Oh, just a few glamour tricks, dear, she said. Mortal minds are weak. I'm still in my favorite jumpsuit, and that paperwork was actually just an old brochure from the stands. Now, let's work on storing that sword of yours in the duat.
What?
Carter, you really don't expect them to let you carry that sword through the security check, do you? It's quite simple. All you have to do is imagine a space in front of you and place the object there, like a shelf or a treasure chest, or...
A locker? Carter asked excitingly. I always wanted a locker.
Boss said. Just think of a combination and stuff it in. When you need it again, just call it to mind.
Carter took a moment to picture the locker. He had no trouble choosing the combination. He picked 13, 32, 33, the numbers of his 3 favorite basketball stars. He held out his sword and bag, and they disappeared in a glowing light.
Whoa, cool,
he said. You sure I can get it back?
Maybe,
Boss answered, if you practice more. Now come on. They were just getting through the security check when behind them they heard what sounded like a bunch of bags thrown everywhere down the hall. A few cops went to check it out when someone yelled,
Moose! Rabid moose!
Moose? Carter asked.
It's here, Boss said.
Well, we have to stop it, Carter said.
Carter, no. The set animal cannot be beaten, Boss warned. I barely made it out back there.
Carter wasn't sure what came over him, but he couldn't just let the monster hurt all these people here. He took out his sword from the duat and ran to the monster.
Hey, set animal, over here, he shouted.
Hey, could your master not think of a better name for you? Set animal's kind of lame, don't you think? How about I just call you Leroy? The monster didn't seem to like that. As they ran toward him, Carter willed his mystic avatar to life.
Get the moose, chicken man,
a little girl shouted. Well, that was just great, Carter thought. He could only hope Sadie didn't hear that, or that he didn't wake up tomorrow to find the news report saying, Mysterious giant chicken man saves airport from mad moose. They wrestled. They brawled. Carter swung his mystic sword. Leroy pushed him away like a bull, causing Carter's avatar to fade away. Then Carter thought of something else. He waited for Leroy to get closer, then he shouted out his locker number. 13, 32, 33. His locker portal opened up in front of him. Without time to react, Leroy jumped through the portal, and it shut behind him, trapping him in the duat. Carter only just remembered he had left his bag in there and wasn't sure how he was going to take it out with the dog in the way. But at that moment, it hardly mattered, because Carter couldn't stop breathing heavily and his head felt hot. He fell to his knees, and everything went black. Carter seemed to fall into another bar trip again, and he saw Set again with face of horror standing next to him. It looked like they were in some large cave. Down below them was a large, nearly completed pyramid made up of bright red bricks. But that wasn't the scary part. Demons were pounding tools and moving bricks here and there. Those demons were probably the most bizarre-looking creatures Carter ever saw. Where their heads should have been were dangerous-looking tools or weapons. Some had sword blades or daggers or spearheads, others had hammers or axes or saw blades. Hanging above them was what looked like the top part of the pyramid, shimmering in gold.
Those brats are stronger than we thought, Set said. They've imprisoned my pet and are currently under the protection of Mother Nut. We must be finished by sunrise on my birthday, Face of Horror. No later than that.
Yes, my lord, the demon answered. But if I may ask, what are we to do with the prisoner?
I think it's time for a little family reunion, Set answered. Wouldn't you like to see your uncle again? Boy!
They reached for Carter, and Carter woke up. He woke to find himself in the back seat of a convertible parked in front of a university building somewhere in Memphis. Boss was in the driver's seat, and next to her, Sadie was back in full human form.
Well, it's about time you woke up, Sadie complained. Me and Boss both had to carry you in and out of the plane and all the way to the car rental place. We were just lucky no one asked questions. That wasn't fun. What took you so long?
You're human again, Carter said.
So you finally noticed,
she said sarcastically.
She changed almost immediately after you passed out, Boss said. You had your sister worried, Carter. And it was our secret,
Sadie complained. Sadie, you worried about me? Carter asked. She blushed and said,
Or I was just scared of the idea that I might have to take on the rest of this mission alone.
Also, I took your advice. It only took longer than I thought. Carter sensed it was more than that, but he wasn't going to force it out of her, so he changed the subject and told them about his Ba trip. He told them about the underground pyramid and the deadline. He also mentioned that while he was there, he felt his dad's presence, like he was somewhere in the cave, maybe entombed inside the pyramid.
You think maybe that's where they're keeping him? Sadie asked. How do we get in there?
It might be best to ask Thoth when we get inside, Boss said. When they walked in, they heard what sounded like a screaming monkey down the halls. When all of a sudden, a golden baboon jumped into Sadie's arms.
Khufu, you're alive!
She exclaimed. Khufu went on grunting, and Boss translated for them.
He says he apologizes for not finding you sooner, she said. He also says after he fell into the river and swam back, he returned to the mansion to look for you, but we were already gone by the time he got back. He says he waited for you there for at least a day, but since no one returned, he decided to seek help from Thoth. Baboons are under the protection of Thoth after all. He also says he can take you to him. While you're at it, I'm going back to fetch us a new ride. Don't worry, I'll be back just in time when you get out, if you get out.
What? Carter asked. But she already turned the corner, and Khufu nudged both Carter and Sadie in the opposite direction. Khufu led them into a room with cubicle office spaces. The strangest part was that all the desks were occupied by crane birds. Khufu gestured them over to a door that said, Dr. Thoth. Inside was not what they expected. They half expected an extra tall man with a bird's head. Instead, they found a regular-sized man dressed in a lab coat and glasses. His hair looked like Einstein's, only in blonde, and he seemed to be somewhere in his 30s. The strangest part was his eyes. His eyes were not normal. In fact, his pupils had patterns inside them, ones that kept changing and making different shapes and colors, like inside of a kaleidoscope. The man had kaleidoscope eyes.
Oh, Horus, Isis, there you are, the man said. I see you found some new bodies. How are you getting used to them? What? Oh, no, Sadie said. No, we're not. Oh, I see. You're trying to share space now, the man guessed. Don't think you have me fooled, Isis. I know you're in charge. What? No, Sadie argued. She's not in charge. I'm Sadie Kane. I take it you're Thoth? Well, of course I am, he answered. How could you claim not to know me? Thoth, master of knowledge. Also known as Jehudi, or Duty, Sadie giggled. Which happens to be a perfectly exceptional name back in ancient Egypt, Thoth said. Though I suppose I've had worse, like the one time the Greeks got me confused with their messenger guy Hermes, which I found incredibly stupid since we're nothing alike. Anyway, you really claim to be Sadie Kane, huh? And I suppose you're not Horus? He asked, looking at Carter. I'm her brother, Carter, he answered. Anyway, you think you could help us defeat Set? You really had the guts to ask that? Thoth argued. After what happened last time? Last time? Carter asked. To avenge Osiris's death, Thoth explained, Horus challenged Set to a duel, and the winner would become king of the gods. Of course, without my help, you would have died. Even so, Set still took Horus's eye. Lucky for him, I replaced it with a new one I made out of moonlight. Even after all that, Horus and Isis almost killed each other. But that's pretty predictable when you're around Set, Lord of Chaos influencing others with chaos. To make a long story short, Sadie Kane, you might think you're in control, but it won't last. Isis is power hungry. I can contain her, Sadie said. Really? Thoth asked. Did you know it was because of her that Set got out of control, or that she exiled Ra? Wait, I thought that was because he was old and ready to retire already, said Carter. Well, that was part of it, Thoth answered. Isis was impatient and wanted Osiris to rule, so she slipped a poisonous snake in Ra's bed. And yes, if you do it right, gods can die. Isis offered Ra a chance to be saved. All he had to do was give her his secret name. His secret name? Carter asked. Yes, said Thoth. Everything in creation has its own secret name, even if one goes through life never knowing it themselves. To have knowledge of one's secret name is to possess power over one's will. Ra was in so much pain he told her his secret name, but in doing so, Isis gained power over him. Therefore, she was able to force Ra to retreat to the heavens, and she made room for her beloved to become king. Set was such a loyal lieutenant to Ra that this ended up upsetting Set, and that's one of the biggest reasons they became enemies. And now, here we are still fighting over the same war, no thanks to Isis. No, Sadie said. This time's different. Believe me, I am in control, not Isis. We need to stop Set. He's planning to take over America, possibly the whole world. Plus, we need to save our father from him. We can't just let him get away with all this. You do care about balance, don't you? Let me ask you this, Miss Kane, Thoth said. Have you ever considered why your father left you in this position? I think it had something to do with my mum, Sadie said. Sadie told Thoth about her conversation with Iskandar and how he told her that her mom saw the future. She also remembered how Iskandar explained how gods have great power, but mortals have creativity. Maybe that made her mom realize that someday the gods and mortals would need each other, need to work together, maybe for something big, maybe something dangerous. And just what might that dangerous thing be? Thoth asked. Set, maybe? Maybe, Sadie said. Or something else? I'm not sure. Being unsure of something isn't like Isis at all, Thoth said. Maybe she isn't in control after all. Alright, tell you what. I'll put you two to a simple test, one that'll help us to see whether or not you are in control of your gods and not repeating their past mistakes. If you could pass, I'll kindly explain that spellbook of mine in your bag. Great. Okay, so, what do we do? Carter asked. Simply look for a special item I require, Thoth said. You'll find it somewhere in the final resting place of the greatest musician who ever lived. Good luck! With a snap of his fingers, a portal opened underneath the siblings' feet, and they fell through, landing in front of a large white mansion. Ow! I thought portals weren't supposed to work when the Demon Day started, Sadie complained. Well, he is a god, so maybe he has certain advantages that magicians don't, Carter suggested. Then he just noticed the mansion and immediately recognized it. Ah, dang it, you gotta be kidding me, he said. What? Carter, what is it? Sadie asked. Whose house is this? No one actually died here, did they?
Afraid so, he answered. Thoth did say we would find what he needs in the final resting place of the greatest musician that ever lived, and here we are.
No way! You're telling me Freddie Mercury lived here? Sadie asked excitedly.
What? No, not him. Elvis. Elvis Presley, said Carter. The chap with the Tibet hair and white jumpsuits? Seriously? Sadie asked. Unless you know another one, Carter said. But yeah, this is where he lived and also where he died. Someone thought it was a good idea to bury him in the backyard and then turn the place into a tourist trap. So much for respect for the dead, huh? Maybe whatever we're looking for is in the gravesite, he suggested. Come on, let's go check. As they climbed the steps and were about to try the door, bam! Carter was shot.
Carter!
Sadie cried. But for some reason, Carter wasn't wounded. Instead, he had been transformed into a small reptile.
Carter?
She wondered. Bam! Another shot was fired, but this time it blasted the door. Then Sadie finally saw from out of the bushes where the shots came from. The one who was shooting was a man dressed in overalls and a cowboy hat. Next to him was another man wearing denim and a bandana on his head and carrying a baseball bat. Nice one, Jared, said the bandana man. Thanks, Wade, said the cowboy. Sadie snatched up Lizard Carter, kicked the broken door open, and ran inside. She raced through the living room, down the hall, and into the trophy room. She didn't really have a plan. She just wanted to get away from those guys, but now she was cornered. If Carter was concentrating on changing himself back, he didn't give any sign. She wished she knew a spell for changing him back, but the only spell she had learned so far was a fire spell, and she was not going to risk that indoors.
Let me take over, Isis said in Sadie's mind. I shall burn our enemies to ash.
Shut up, Sadie argued. I'm not using fire on anyone. She was running out of time. She heard more gunshots. Those men were coming. Then, she just noticed the jumpsuits in the display cases were all standing in a strange position. The suits were leaning forward in Sadie's direction, and she was sure they did not look like that when she entered the room. If suits had faces, they were probably looking at Sadie. She suddenly remembered some advice that Zia had given her. Just use whatever you have available. Then she realized they were waiting for orders.
"Ha, there you are, girlie,"
one of the men shouted.
"They're attacking your master's house. Defend it,"
Sadie told the suits. They broke out of their cases and attacked Wayne and Jared. They pushed them both out the window, leading into the backyard. So Elvis was a magician, Sadie thought. How about that? While the men were distracted, Sadie looked at Lizard Carter.
"Come on, Carter, come back to me," she begged.
She closed her eyes and pictured Carter the way she remembered, an annoying, badly dressed 14-year-old boy. A second later, Carter changed back. "Whoa, how'd you do that?" he asked. "I don't know, you just seemed wrong," she said. "Thanks," he said sarcastically. Bam! Out the window, another gunshot was fired. The kids hated to imagine the suits actually murdered those two guys, because that's exactly what it looked like. Jared looked like he was shot in the face, while Wayne's head seemed to be bashed by his own bat. But what didn't add up was that there was no blood anywhere. Where there should have been blood, their wounds were filled with what looked like dust or sand. Then their bodies cracked and were blown away like dust in the wind. A second after that, a small ball of light popped out from each of the bodies and flew into the sky. "They're Shakti," Carter said. "This whole time they were like training dummies. It must have been part of the test." "What? No, that can't be," Sadie said. "They turn you into a lizard. They used magic." "I think those balls of light were probably the magic that animated them," Carter suggested. "Like a recording for their master," Sadie guessed. "Returning to report what they did." But she didn't get an answer, and she failed to notice Carter had already headed down the path that led to Elvis's grave. Then Carter just noticed something that didn't seem to belong there. Laying on the edge of the grave was a small sheet of papyrus. It was just an Egyptian-style drawing of a cat attacking a snake with a knife. In one corner, written in black marker, in English letters, Carter read, "Keep up the fight." That's vandalism, isn't it? Ruining an ancient drawing like that? Sadie guessed. Yeah, but doesn't this look familiar to you? Carter asked. She looked closer at the drawing and saw that he was right. She was immediately reminded about her conversation with Nut. Is that Apophis, the Chaos Snake? She asked Carter. Yeah, he said. Impressive. Apophis was supposed to be worse than Set, and Egyptians thought doomsday would come when Apophis ate the sun, Carter explained. Ra ordered that cat to kill him however many times it took. I asked Dad who the cat was, and no one knows for sure, but some think it's Sekhmet, the Eye of Ra, because he always asked her to kill his enemies for him. But now that I see it here, Carter continued, it looks like some other cat goddess, possibly one we might know. Sadie looked at the drawing again, and just then she realized that cat looked a lot like Muffin. Lost? She wondered. Just then, a portal opened up in front of them, and they both guessed that was their cue to go. Come on, Sadie said. Let's go so I can go slug Thoth in the beak. When they jumped through, they weren't back in the university. Instead, they stood in front of a large glass and metal pyramid. Thoth was just sitting there tuning his guitar, with Khufu next to him. Hey, you made it, he said. Excellent. I hope you're happy, Sadie argued. We almost got murdered back there. Yes, well, I couldn't allow you to beat up real magicians, Thoth explained. Shanti make excellent stunt doubles. It's a shame I had to let you break them. They were some of my best ones in centuries. He held out his hand, and 2 tiny balls of light hovered in his palm. The kids didn't even have to guess that those were the same balls of light they saw pop out of the broken Shakti. As you may have already guessed, these are my recording devices, Thoth explained. They reported everything and confirmed that your test was a success. I knew it, Sadie exclaimed. You did well, Sadie Kane, said Thoth. You went with your own plans rather than letting Isis do it for you. And you, Carter, did pretty well getting turned into a lizard. Huh? The point of the lesson for you, that is, Thoth explained, is that you will find enemies where you least expect, but you'll also find friends where you least expect along the way. A good thing to keep in mind if you ever cross paths with the House of Life again. For a second, Carter wondered if he meant Zia, but then he thought, nah, this ain't no fairy tale. Anyway, can you explain this? He asked Thoth, showing him the drawing. Does this have anything to do with our mom's death? That's a cat and a snake, Thoth said sarcastically. Answer the question, Jahooty, Sadie growled. We had a deal. You know, I just so happen to like that name, Thoth said, but not so much as when it comes out of your mouth, young lady. And as I recall, the deal was to explain my spell book, if I may. Without another word, the book floated out of Carter's bag and into Thoth's hands. Given he was a god, he finished every page in just seconds. Then he explained to them how the book contained the right incantation to destroy Set. It wouldn't destroy him forever, but it would banish him deep into the Duat, and he wouldn't be able to reform back into the mortal world for a long time. It won't work for you two until you're actually in his presence, Thoth continued. Once you find him, Sadie must recite the incantation to Set. And what, I'm just supposed to sit... He's just supposed to sit there quietly as I read him to death? Sadie asked. I didn't say it'd be easy, Thoth said. For that, you'll require 2 things. First, you need to learn to speak Set's secret name. Great, and how are we supposed to know that? Sadie asked. There's only one person in particular who would have that info and be willing to share it, Thoth answered. The only person who could teach you how to speak it properly would be someone close to Set, someone close to his heart. But no one loves Set, Sadie said. He's the god of evil. No, said Carter. At least one person would. His wife, the river goddess. Nephthys, Thoth finished. The best place to find her would be a river, of course. It wouldn't be the first time she had to betray him for order and balance sake. I'm sure she'd be willing to share the info you need. The second thing you require would be the feather of truth. The what? Sadie asked. Honestly, don't kids go to school anymore? Thoth wondered. Sadie, in ancient Egypt, when you died, you would have to take a dangerous journey through the land of the dead, Carter explained. Then you would be judged by Anubis, the funeral god, in the Hall of Judgment. Your life would be weighed on a scale, your heart on one end and the feather on the other. If you passed the test, you'd be blessed with eternal happiness. If you failed, meet the devourer would eat your heart, destroying your entire existence. And I don't suppose there's a way to get there without dying? Sadie asked Thoth. Not from me, no, Thoth said, but I believe Boss has just found a new ride to get you there. She has it waiting for you just over there at the river. Oh, and Khufu says he'd like to go with you. With no time to lose, the Kane siblings ran in the direction Thoth pointed, with Khufu right behind them. Around the corner, beyond the sidewalk, just on the riverbank, they saw Bost. She was standing on an old-fashioned paddle-wheel steamboat. She front-flipped her way down to them and said, I told you I'd get us a ride. Say hello to the Egyptian queen. What? Where? How? Carter blurted. Long story, Boss said. I'll explain more about it later. I don't like the water, but Thoth mentioned the details to me earlier about where you needed to go. For now, who wants to meet the captain? She led them to the control deck, and standing at the steering wheel was someone that brought back Carter's horrible nightmares. Ah, a demon! He cried. Oh, it's all right, Carter. No need to be scared. He's with us, Boss said. He's under your command. What? You could say he belongs to your family, Boss explained. Your father and mother called him Blood-Stained Blade, and they've summoned this boat at least once or twice before. Carter looked at the demon. He was dressed in a captain's uniform and matching gloves so that you couldn't see his hands. Where his head should have been was a big double-bladed battle axe. Carter could guess where he got his name from by looking at the dark red stains on his blade, though he did not want to know where those stains had come from. A voice came out from the front blade. When the demon spoke, he sounded like he was in some sort of mood.
Such an honor to serve your family again, Lord and Lady Kane, the demon said. What are your orders?
He takes orders from us? Sadie asked.
You haven't told them yet?
The demon asked Bost. Tell us what? Sadie asked. Oh, that he takes your orders within reason, Bost rushed. The boat can only be summoned once every year, and when you're in great need of it. Also, it's best not to keep him waiting for orders. Carter wasn't sure why she seemed uneasy, but he went ahead and asked the demon to take them to the Hall of Judgment. The demon bowed in agreement, thankfully without beheading anyone, and said,
As you wish, my lord. In the meantime, will you dine while you wait?
Carter only just realized how hungry he'd been and said, yeah, sure, that'd be great. After spending so many days running for their lives, it felt good just to eat and relax. Not only that, before they went to the dining room, the captain showed them their guest rooms, where everything was set up just like their rooms in Amos's house. Carter and Sadie even found copies of their usual outfits, now in linen. Sadie even found time to redo the highlights in her hair, this time in blue. As they all sat and ate at the dining table, Carter and Sadie locked eyes and silently agreed it was time to ask. Boss, what did the captain want you to tell us? Carter asked. Oh, you shouldn't listen to demons, dear, she said. He is bound by magic to serve. But if he ever got loose, he would go rogue and attack everyone on his ship. Something to keep in mind. You're changing the subject, Carter said. She took a deep breath and explained that she hadn't been on this boat since the day their mom died. After she died, their father brought her on board the boat, and right here, in this same living room, was where they made their deal. They realized she meant the deal to watch Sadie and become Muffin for 6 years. Then Carter took out the drawing of the cat and snake and asked, "Does this look familiar to you?" Boss took another deep breath and explained how Ra had chosen her to look after Apophis, the Chaos Snake, before Ra retreated to the heavens. She said Ra casted her and the snake into the abyss, where she had to keep it down forever before Julius and Ruby came along. "I still remember Ra's words," she continued. "My loyal cat, this is your greatest duty." And before long, I spent centuries upon centuries fighting that snake with no rest, getting more and more weak and exhausted. Your father said that your mother had foreseen horrible things if the snake would have overcome me. "So that's when they went to Cleopatra's Needle?" Sadie asked. "So Mom and Dad did set you free," Carter said. "But what happened to the snake? Your mother closed the breach just in time, and he remained trapped. But she used all her magical energy so much it burned her up inside and out, and that's when it happened. Your father mentioned that your mother told him it was the first step in restoring the gods and mud, and they were doing the right thing. Your mother died a hero, while I could do nothing." "It's not your fault," Carter said. "Yeah," Sadie said. "Obviously you would be too exhausted if you had to spend centuries fighting for your life without any rest." "There's something else as well," Boss said. "As the years went by, your father and Amos and I started to question how much longer the snake's prison would hold, and we would have to—" Without warning, they heard the captain calling through the intercom, confirming that they were approaching their destination. They were so busy talking, none of them realized how it had gotten dark so fast, because they also didn't realize how quick they sailed into the Duat. It happened just like the same way with Amos's boat. They sailed through a big thick fog from out of nowhere, and when the fog cleared, they appeared somewhere else. Only this time, it wasn't a familiar city. Instead, they were now floating in an underground river. A large cavern ceiling stretched up about as high as a skyscraper, and the river was the color of dark blood. The only other light outside the boat were flames in the distance. "Is this—" Sadie hesitated. "The land of the dead," Boss finished. The boat started to slow down and pulled over next to a boardwalk on a small island. On this island, they noticed some even weirder looking creatures waddling around. They looked like birds, but with human faces. At the tip top of the island was a black temple, the Hall of Judgment.
"I hope to see you again, Lord and Lady Kane,"
said Bloodstained Blade.
"I am always prepared to serve, unless you see it fit to release me."
"We'll, call if we need you again," Carter said. "Thanks for everything."
"As you wish,"
the demon said. Then the ship sank into the river, but something told them that both the ship and the demon were just fine. As they walked, one of the human-faced birds landed next to Sadie. Sadie immediately recognized this one. Its face had wrinkly brown skin and milky white eyes as if it were blind. "Iskander?" Sadie guessed.
"Hello, my dear,"
he answered. Sadie hesitated, and she started tearing up. "Your last words. You said I too can rest at last. I didn't want to believe it, but it's true. You did die. I'm so sorry."
"It's not your fault, my dear," Iskander said. "Like all life, it was just my time."
"But it was terrible timing," Sadie complained. "You died before we could train, and now Desjardins is after us. We needed you."
"Oh, my dear Sadie, look how far you've come," Iskander said. Look how much you and your brother have accomplished. You did not need me. Either way, my brethren would have found out the truth about you sooner.
So you knew all along, didn't you? Sadie guessed. You knew Carter and I were hosting gods.
After the second meeting, yes, he answered. I only regret not realizing it sooner. I wish I could have protected you too, as much as...
He hesitated.
What? Who? Sadie asked.
I made many choices, Sadie. Some wise, while others I regretted later.
Like the decision to forbid the gods? Sadie guessed. My mother convinced you it was a bad idea, didn't she?
You must understand, Sadie. My spirit was crushed since Egypt fell to the Romans, no thanks to Cleopatra, who thought she could host a god. For generations I blamed everyone, and then Thoth and I came to an agreement that gods and humans were better off living lives without one another. But your mother foresaw a time which seems very close, where much would be destroyed and chaos would claim all creation. And only gods and magicians could prevent it all. I was a foolish old man, but your parents knew better than I did. And now they have sacrificed themselves because I would do nothing. And for that, I am so sorry, my dear.
He made it sound like her parents' deaths was his fault, but she didn't see it that way.
I don't blame you, she said. But what do we do about Set?
That, my dear, I cannot answer, he said. Your choice.
He turned as if he heard another voice.
I'm sorry, I am out of time. I must go forth with my new duties as gatekeeper. Until we meet again, Sadie Kane.
Wait, I have more questions, Sadie called. What exactly did my mom see?
But he didn't answer, and continued flying into the endless cavern. As they got closer, they noticed how the palace was dark, not just because they were underground, but because it was literally made completely out of black stone. The halls led them into a large empty room, except for a throne chair right in the middle. Behind that was a large scale. Some strange small animal was napping at the foot of the throne. Its front half was cat-like, while its back end was more like a hippo or maybe an elephant, and its head resembled a crocodile. A meat the devourer. I thought he'd be bigger, Carter said.
He only needs to be big enough to eat hearts, Boss said.
Then, they heard a strong rumbling behind them. Smoke started to fill the room, and what appeared to be a large black animal scurried behind the smoke. Then the dark shape seemed to shrink, the smoke cleared, and they saw... a boy? He didn't seem much older than Carter. About 14, maybe 15. He had a pale complexion and was outfitted with a black leather jacket and jeans that matched his dark hair and eyes. Sadie might have been drooling after getting a good look at him. It was Anubis, Prince of the Afterlife.
Hello, he said softly. You are all not dead. No, but we are trying very hard, Sadie said.
Carter explained how Thoth sent them here to get the Feather of Truth, so they could challenge Set, and Khufu backed him up. No, Anubis said, and I'll show you why. He gestured toward the far corner of the room. In that corner, they saw what appeared to be a smoky hologram of a graveyard. Sadie walked over to get a closer look. Only then did she notice the temple and her friends were gone.
Welcome to New Orleans, Anubis said. Where'd everybody go? Sadie asked. Is this real?
It's okay. They're all right. They're all right where we left them, Anubis promised. I only brought you here so I could speak with you in private. Khufu mentioned how you and your brother are the new host of Isis and Horus. I never got along with Horus, but Isis always treated me like a son. To be perfectly fair, I'm the one in control, not Isis, Sadie said, and this does not make me your mother. I'm not ready for that sort of thing yet. Indeed. And you don't really act like a godling, Anubis said. And what about you? You just let the funeral god take the wheel just like that? Sadie asked. There is no one hosting me, Anubis answered. I can channel myself in every graveyard or any place of death, but no one hosts me. This body you see is my natural appearance."
Shame,
Sadie said. "What?" Anubis asked.
Nothing.
Sadie rushed in. She silently chided herself for what she said. What was she thinking? She was talking to a deity who was like 5,000 years old and not even human. It wasn't right to let her guard down just because she thought he was cute.
"Anyway," she said, "we're getting off the subject. Can you give us the feather or not?"
"You don't know what you're asking. For a mortal to have it would be dangerous," Anubis warned. "It would go against Osiris's laws."
"Osiris is the one we need to rescue,"
Sadie argued. "Even so, you realize speaking even the slightest dishonesty would burn you up," Anubis warned.
"You calling me a liar?"
Sadie argued. "Yes," Anubis said.
Ugh, well.
"Are you always this infuriating?" Anubis asked.
"Usually more,"
Sadie answered. It's no wonder why your family hasn't found you a husband already," said Anubis.
"Excuse me?" Sadie asked. "Look, I understand if you've been needing to, get with the times, but it's the 21st century now. Most people have a lot more sense than to just sell away their children to some stranger like some lifeless jewel. Look, if you let me just borrow the feather, I'll go defeat Set, free Osiris, then Osiris will come back here and set things right. It's a win-win."
"If I do, I must insist on several conditions," Anubis said. He held out his palm, and a tiny glowing blue feather popped out of thin air. "Will you, Sadie Kane, and for Osiris's sake, promise to be the one, and I mean the only one, to carry the feather, and also to listen to whatever my mother, Nephthys, has to tell you once you meet her?"
"I promise," Sadie answered.
"One more thing," Anubis continued. "Before you go, I must ask you 3 questions to prove your honesty. And for your own sake, you must promise yourself not to lie, even a little."
"Give me the bloody feather," Sadie complained.
"Are you ready?" he asked.
"No," she complained.
"Good," Anubis said. "Second question. Would you be willing to give your life to save your brother if necessary?"
"Of course,"
Sadie answered, which was surprising even to herself. "Final question," Anubis continued. "Would you be prepared to lose your father if it meant saving the world?"
"What? That's not a fair question,"
Sadie argued. "Fair or unfair, you must answer honestly," Anubis warned. Sadie could never believe a choice to save one person over the rest of the world would sit on her shoulders. What would her dad have to say about it?
"I suppose if it meant saving the world, and there really was no other way, then yes, I would save the world,"
Sadie answered. "Then the feather is yours," Anubis said. "It takes strength to admit the truth, Sadie Kane, and the truth is never easy. You've just done far more well than most souls I have ever met."
"Sure, I feel much stronger now," Sadie said sarcastically.
"I should let you go now, for tomorrow is Set's birthday, and you have very little time left. I do hope we meet again on better circumstances, Sadie Kane."
He disappeared in a cloud of smoke. When the smoke cleared, Sadie was still in the graveyard, but now Carter, Bast, and Khufu were next to her. "What just happened?" Carter asked. "What a jerk," Sadie murmured. After Sadie explained her conversation with the dog boy, and mentioning they only had 1 day left, they tried to decide on how they would get to Phoenix. They remembered that Nut had promised them safe air travel, but only as far as Memphis, so further air travel was risky. Plus, they didn't want to risk another big scene like in Washington. Next to that, if news traveled fast, the House of Life might even monitor air travel throughout the country. So they figured a road trip was their only option. After finding an RV to borrow, they raced their way west. Bast and Khufu took turns at the wheel. On the way, Sadie remained silent and kept staring at the feather in her hand. She refused to say a word about her talk with Anubis.
But they didn't have time to worry about that. They needed to figure out where they could go to contact Nephthys. Boss suggested the Rio Grande in El Paso, Texas, which was thankfully on the way. From what Boss could calculate, at their speed, from New Orleans to Phoenix, would have taken about 24 hours. So, there would be just enough time to stop by the river, summon Nephthys, and get Set's secret name. 24 hours, and it would be over. They would stop Set and save Dad, one way or the other. Or everything would have been for nothing. Not just what Carter and Sadie had gone through, but also what their parents had sacrificed too. When they eventually reached El Paso, they had to park the RV and walk because the river was a little ways away from the nearest road. It was about 5 in the afternoon. The sun was going down. They had to hurry. "This should be a good spot," Boss said when they reached the water. "You really think the river goddess will show up here?" Sadie asked her. "Are we even sure she'll be willing to share Set's secret name?" "Yes," Boss answered. "If you want to summon a river goddess, you must do it at the riverbank. It might be best for you to do it, Sadie. Isis and Nephthys were sisters, so it's our best bet." So, Sadie reached down and touched the water, making ripples. Hello? Nephthys? Anyone home?" Sadie asked. "Well, anything?" Carter asked. "It's very faint," Sadie said. "Just a few words. Caged, no, sheltered, in sleeping house?" Khufu had just hissed randomly at the water, and Carter seemed to be the only one to notice. Then, he just noticed the water was becoming slightly turbulent, and it wasn't coming from Sadie. Guys? Carter hesitated. Then he heard Horus's voice call out, "Carter, get out of the way!" Boom! Carter backed away just as a gigantic body burst out of the surface. He dropped his jaw as they all stared up high at the horrified face of a giant crocodile man? Sobek, guardian of rivers. He was even bigger than the RV and was dressed in gold armor. His teeth looked as sharp as kitchen knives. "Horus!" he roared. "That form does not suit you, Falcon God. I shall snap it in half." "Whatever you do, don't let him snatch you up, or he'll pull you into the water and drown you," Horus warned. Only then, Carter just noticed Sadie was lying flat on the ground, unconscious. Her head was covered in blood. She must have gotten hit by Sobek's huge head when he popped out of the water. "Sobek, you traitor!" Boss yelled. "Your duty is to the king!" "What king?" Sobek argued. "Ra is gone. Osiris is dead again. Horus as weak as you can see. Set offers power. He offers fresh meat. And I think I'll start with godling flesh." He was about to bring his fist right down on Carter, but then Boss blocked it with their mystic avatar. "Carter, get Sadie out of here," she warned. "If I don't come back, tell your father I kept my promise, and tell Sadie I am sorry." The scene was like a wrestling match, and Boss started hammering the croc into the ground. Just when it seemed like she was about to finish him, Sobek found a chance to pull Boss into the water. For at least a minute, there was silence. Then, something small rocketed out of the water. Muffin the cat landed on her feet right in front of them. One good long look into those cat's eyes, and Carter realized the cat goddess was no more. Sadie couldn't remember falling asleep. In fact, she couldn't remember when they traveled as far as the desert. But now, she was in bot form again, and for some reason, she was a giant. She was standing right next to where her friends made camp. She wondered how they couldn't see her. And then, she noticed Amos was with them. Not only that, but there was no sign of Boss anywhere. That couldn't have been a good sign. Then, she just noticed a few inches away, the ground seemed to shift, making shapes until Sadie could see what looked like a man's face in the ground. Sadie had the feeling she was the only one who could see it. "Hello, Sadie Kane," the face said. "I've been waiting for you." "Wait, are you the Earth God?" Sadie asked. "Yes," he answered, "I am. Geb,
Father of the Earth.
Sadie almost forgot about Nut's message she was asked to give him. She searched her pockets and found the same envelope. "Your wife asked me to give you this," she told him, "and she said she misses you." He reached out to take the envelope, opened it, and instead of a letter, fireworks burst out. A new constellation formed in the night sky above them, the face of Nut formed by hundreds of stars.
My beloved really knows how to warm my heart with her gifts, Geb said. Thank you, Sadie Kane. I shall reward you greatly. Ask me a favor the earth can grant, and it shall be yours.
Then can you save my dad, please? She said immediately.
What a faithful daughter, he said. Isis can learn from you. Alas, it cannot be done, for your father's path is entwined with Osiris.
Then can you destroy Set's pyramid? She asked.
I cannot interfere much with my own children. After all, Set is my son too.
Well, then what can you do to help? Sadie asked in frustration.
Perhaps some advice to achieve your desires, he suggested. Go to the town called Las Cruces. It may be dangerous, but you will also find what you need the most.
What? What do I need? She asked. What is it? But the Earth God said no more, and sank back into the ground. Then Sadie woke up in her uncle's lap. Amos? She exclaimed. You're all right. How did you get away?
I'm so sorry, Sadie, he said. I was such a fool to go off and leave you two like that. I underestimated Set. He's dangerous with or without the pyramid. But he'll only get stronger once the pyramid's complete.
Did you find out where Dad was? Sadie asked. Is he alive?
I overheard demons talking, he answered. Osiris is kept in the pyramid. I think they're planning to channel his power to create a storm surrounding the mountain as their way to protect it and keep people away. But I fear they'll suck him dry until there's nothing left, and I think that includes your father. As for me, well, this might not make any sense, but I managed to run, and no one tried to stop me. He simply let me go. It must have been a test, or maybe he thought I might come back with you two. I can't be certain. Who knows if he's watching my every move right now. I doubt I can even trust myself. I just knew for sure. I just had to find you both again before he or the house did. My only regret is that I didn't find you sooner.
Then Muffin the cat walked up to Sadie's lap. Sadie, Carter hesitated. When you got knocked out, we were attacked, and... He didn't have to finish. Sadie took one look into those cat's eyes, and for once she felt an unfamiliar presence. No, she can't be. She's a goddess. She can't be gone.
She's not gone forever, Sadie, Amos said. Gods intend to find another new host in another lifetime or so.
No, I can't wait that long, Sadie whimpered. I want her back now. She wept in her uncle's arms. Then Carter put a hand on her shoulder and they locked eyes. They silently agreed that they could not lose anyone else. They definitely couldn't make it seem like Boss died for nothing, any more than her mother did. They could not afford to lose. Where are we anyway? She asked. Are we back in Egypt?
The white sands of New Mexico, actually, Amos said. We shouldn't be too far from Arizona now.
Sadie then explained her conversation with Geb. But Amos warned that traveling through civilization any further would be risky. It'd make it easier for the House of Light to track them. But then Sadie mentioned how Las Cruces was Spanish for the crosses. That has to be a hint, right? She asked. So, Amos, Carter, and Sadie hopped into the boat while Khufu and Muffin were magically transported back to Brooklyn. Amos tapped the bow, and the boat flew into the air, heading west. Once they got to Las Cruces, they parked the boat on the south side of town. They decided if they were going to fight Set, they might as well not have done it on an empty stomachs, so they tried to find a local restaurant.
It didn't take them too long before they just picked the nearest one, just a small taco place where no one else entered. Just minutes after they got what they ordered and started chewing away, another familiar face stepped inside and walked up to them.
Zia Rashid, Amos said. It's been a while, hasn't it? I see Iskandar sent his best.
She looked at him like he smacked her in the face. Amos, Carter said. You probably hadn't heard, but Iskandar's dead.
Really? He asked. So then that only means the chief lector now is...
Desjardins, Carter said.
Well, that's unsettling,
Amos said. I know he's not exactly the most likable person, Zia argued, but he is reliable and powerful. You'll need his help if you want to defeat Set. Seriously? Sadie asked. Has it ever occurred to you that maybe he's trying to stop us as a way to help Set? Others may betray the house and try to do that, but he wouldn't dare, Zia said. Zia, please, said Carter. He wants to kill us. Plus, he was there at the museum when Set got freed. If Set needed a body... The tip of Zia's staff lit up like a candle.
Whoa, easy now, Amos said. We can talk this through, okay? But I think you may have a point, Carter. If I know Desjardins, he was never really one for listening to reason.
Please, Zia begged. I only came here to tell you he's offering you a chance to explain yourselves. Also, Carter, there's something you need to know. The front door swung open, and there was Desjardins with 2 henchmen on either side of him.
It's a trap, Amos exclaimed.
Amos Kane, Desjardins shouted.
It's been a while, Michelle,
Amos said. Seriously? Sadie said. His first name's Michelle? No wonder he's so pissed all the time.
Carter, Sadie, get back to the boat, Amos commanded. Head for the pyramid.
What about you? Sadie asked.
I promise I'll meet you there, Amos promised. Now go.
Michelle's henchmen were chanting spells, but Amos knocked them off their feet by pounding his staff on the ground. Master, please, Zia begged. This isn't what Iskandar would have wanted. Iskandar is dead, Desjardins growled. Now step out of his way. The only way to stop Set is if we work together, said Zia. But he didn't listen, and pounded his staff, making the building shake, but Amos protected them with a shield spell.
Carter, Sadie, go on, get out of here, Amos told them. You too, Zia.
Carter was feeling pretty thankful to hear he included Zia. The 3 kids ran through the kitchen and out the back of the building. They hopped into the boat, Zia cast the right spell, and up they went. Carter, we can't just leave him alone back there, Sadie panicked. I can't lose anyone else. Don't worry, Carter said. He's just giving us time. He'll be fine. I'm sure he'll catch up. If he can escape Set, then I'm sure he shouldn't have too much trouble with a couple of human magicians. Then, they heard a loud roar in the distance. Zia pointed down at the town below. What looked like a flying giant with a lion's head was heading right for them. It was Sekhmet, Master of War. Zia casted a huge pillar of fire, but it didn't put a scratch on the cat. Zia collapsed completely, drained of energy.
Horus, help us, Carter called in his mind. It's my birthday, you know, Horus answered.
What?
Aren't you going to wish me a happy birthday?
Happy birthday, Carter rushed. Now can you help us get rid of that lion lady? This explained to him how the lion goddess Sekhmet was summoned by Desjardins to hunt them down. As the new chief lector, he now had the advantage of summoning Sekhmet once in his lifetime. Seriously? Carter thought. Only once and he chooses now?
Yes, I know, Horus said. I suppose it goes to show you just how much he really hates us.
Why would someone who hates gods rely on a god to do their dirty work? Carter asked.
Beats me, Horus said. He was always quite the hypocrite.
Okay, so how do we stop her? Carter asked.
Well, I'm certain there's no talking with her, Horus said. She was born to be a killing machine. She can't be bargained with or reasoned with, and she feels no pity or remorse or fear. As far as I know, she won't rest until she gets what she wants.
And that is?
Blood.
Great, Carter thought. He started to wonder if they could find a butcher shop to lead her to, but then he just noticed a factory in the distance with a billboard on the roof that said, Magic Salsa Inc. Then Carter hatched an idea. They parked the boat right next to one of the trucks. Then they waited for Sekhmet to get closer, and then they jumped out of the way, and Sekhmet crashed right through the truck. When she came out the other end, she was covered in salsa. Blood! Tasty blood! She growled. Just as Carter hoped, she started eating up the salsa. From what Carter could recall from studying the gods, he heard stories of how people used to avoid bloodshed from Sekhmet by offering her gallons of red wine or pomegranate juice, tricking her into thinking it was blood. Turns out, the method worked just as well with salsa, because she just kept licking away the red liquid until she transformed into a peaceful-looking cow. Hathor, the cow of love. Then she collapsed and started snoring away.
Sleep well, my beloved,
Horus said. That's your wife? Carter asked.
Probably not the best time to go into detail,
said Horus. Since the boat was wrecked, they decided to borrow the truck. After getting familiar with all the gears, they drove off and headed for the pyramid. Zia had already woken up by the time they drove off. She looked at Carter and started to say, Carter, I'm sorry about, I wish the circumstances were better. Yeah, he said. I guess you'll be in a lot of trouble with the house. I may be banished and stripped of my gear, Zia said, assuming they won't kill me. Carter thought about that for a moment. He remembered her mentioning how Iskandar was like the closest thing she had to a father after her parents died. But with him being dead now, what was she supposed to do? Maybe you could come with us, Carter suggested. I can talk to Amos about it. But where would we go, Carter? She asked. Even if you defeat Set, the house will never stop looking for you. We'll figure it out, he said. I'm used to traveling all the time anyway, and Sadie's not all bad. I heard that, Sadie shouted from behind the curtains. Plus, you have amazing powers, Zia, Carter continued. You're very sweet, Carter, she said. But you don't know me. Not really. I suppose Iskandar saw this coming. What do you mean? Carter asked. When Desjardins and I left the museum that night, Zia explained, Iskandar pulled me over to talk in private. He told me that I was in danger and he wanted to take me somewhere safe and... That's odd. I can't remember what happened after. I suppose he didn't have time, or he changed his mind, and that's when he sent me to look for you in New York. Carter wasn't sure what to make of that. Maybe Zia somehow partially lost a few memories, or her memory wasn't all that good in general. Either way, he figured it probably didn't matter now. Zia was here with him now. If Iskandar wanted her to stay protected, Carter promised himself he would do just that. Hey, by the way, what was it you needed to tell me back at the restaurant? He asked her. It's him, she exclaimed. What? Carter asked. Slow down, pull over, she demanded. He didn't catch what she saw, but he did as she asked anyway. Carter immediately learned there was a difference between stopping cars and trucks. Trucks took longer to slow down, and it was even harder since it was dark. They got a knock at the door, and to their surprise, it was Amos. How did you escape? Carter asked. I'll explain later, he answered. We must keep moving before the house catches up. The further they drove, the darker and nastier the storm was. With all the crazy weather, it was about 4 a.m. before they ditched the truck and Camelback Mountain was finally in sight. The weird part was that the mountain alone was clear of the nasty storm in all directions, and the sky was full of stars. They knew they couldn't have driven the truck up the mountain, or they would have risked being detected.
Amos suggested they turn into clouds. The kids looked confused, but without explaining, Amos pounded his staff on the ground, and all four of them turned into lumps of smoke. How to explain how they were moving? Well, it felt as if they were standing in a train car and the engine was tugging them along. As a master magician, Amos was probably doing all the work at keeping everyone together. Minutes later, they hovered over the side of the mountain and transformed back into humans again. They stood in front of a crevice between two large boulders. Supposedly, this spot was familiar to Amos due to his previous visit. In less than a minute, they entered the hollowness of the mountain, and there was the Red Pyramid. Sadie almost thought they were back in the land of the dead again, only because of how horrifying the place looked. The cavern seemed about 50 stories high, and even though they couldn't see the bottom, they could see fire pits surrounding the pyramid. There must have been hundreds of demons standing around, gazing at the pyramid, and Sadie was just relieved no one noticed them. Yet. Then, they just noticed how all the demons were watching as a flying boat hovered towards the pyramid. On the boat, carried by two demons, was the Golden Pyramidion. Behind them was Face of Horror himself. That only left them with one question. Where was Set? But right now, they needed a plan to stop the demons before the pyramid was complete. Amos suggested they transform into clouds again, but everyone else quickly vetoed the idea. Then, Carter and Sadie suggested they turn into birds again. Carter turned into a falcon again, and Sadie turned into a kite again. Amos turned into a bat for whatever reason, and Zia took out a Shakti that turned into an eagle large enough to ride on. They flew around the pyramid, and Zia's eagle knocked the two demons overboard and the Pyramidion with them. Ew! Face of Horror growled. Before he could think, all three canes knocked him overboard. No spells required. Then, Amos jumped onto the boat, changed back, and spotted winged demons flying toward them. Amos told the kids to go inside the pyramid and find their dad while he stayed and kept the demons busy. It wasn't too hard to notice. There was just a simple doorway on one side of the pyramid. The siblings changed back, and Zia's eagle turned back into clay and turned to dust. Amos sealed the entrance behind them with a giant block of rubble, preventing the demons from following them. Where the burial chamber should have been in a regular pyramid, the dark hallway led into a huge throne room with a giant-sized chair. At the foot of the throne was Dad's coffin. "Dad!" Sadie cried. "Huh? No, wait, hold on," Carter warned. Before Sadie could get close, "Slay him!" Amos dropped down between them and the coffin. "Amos?" Sadie asked. How did you..." He looked up with a face full of pain, and his eyes were literally glowing red behind his glasses. He tried to speak, but he sounded like he was suffocating.
Run!
Then, red vapor spewed from his body. A tower of smoke swirled in front of him and evaporated, revealing a tall, red-skinned man with the head of a familiar canine monster.
Well,
he said in a deep, spine-tingling tone.
I suppose this is the part where Zia gets to say, "I told you so." Confused, Carter?
He asked.
Well, it wasn't a full possession. Gods can exist in many different places at once, in so many unimaginable ways. Horus can tell you that, if he were being honest.
"I don't get it," Carter said. "So you've been possessing him since the night at the museum? You've been inside him that whole time, even before he took us in?"
Very good,
said Hubert. "But why? If you wanted us dead, why didn't you just kill us back in London? Why bother taking us to Brooklyn and telling us everything? Did he even know you were possessing him?"
Well, Amos did put up a good fight. I only chose him because, as you know, we gods always preferred the blood of the pharaohs. There were some things I could not make him do without destroying his existence completely.
I didn't want to break my new plaything so soon.
As anger stirred up inside Carter, Horus spoke up again.
Carter, you must give me full control now.
What? No, said Carter. I got this.
No, you don't, Horus warned. If we don't act now, everyone you love is going to die. Oh, poor Horus, said Teast. Still struggling with your little training wheels, are you? Well, that's too bad.
For once, both Carter and Horus had the same feeling at the same time. Rage. Carter swung his sword and a mystic fist rocketed into Set, pushing him forward and collapsing his throne. Set burst out of the rubble laughing.
It'll take more than a little punch in the stomach to put a scratch on me. You realize you've only helped me increase my power by being so stupid enough to come here. I have harnessed your father's power to make me stronger, and I shall do the same with all three of you here. Once I've sucked you all dry, it'll be enough for my storm to envelop the world.
Wait a minute. What do you mean all three of us? Carter asked. Only me and Sadie have... Then, all eyes were on Zia.
Yes, my lovely Nephis,
Set said. Then, Set pointed at the siblings and they telekinetically slammed into the wall and were pinned down. With his other hand, Set lifted Zia into the air.
Your form does not do you justice,
Set said.
but your choices were limited, weren't they? Oh, my beloved Nephis, in the beginning of time, you were born as my precious baby sister. But in another lifetime, in another reincarnation, you were reborn as my treacherous wife. And now, you shall make quite a delicious appetizer. True, you were always the weakest of us, but you're still one of the five, and there's always power in collecting the complete set.
He paused and grinned.
The complete set. Now that's funny. And now I shall have the pleasure of consuming your energy.
Carter had no idea how Zia could be the host of Nephis. If she were, he was sure he would have noticed, or at least Horus and Isis would have sensed it and warned them. Zia's magic was amazing, but not overkill, so what exactly got Set into thinking that? Suddenly, Zia's arm broke free and burned Set's face with a fire spell, breaking Carter and Sadie free. Set backed up and seemed confused.
What? What sort of trickery is this? How did you...
You will not possess her, Zia said.
What have you done with her?
Set growled. He didn't wait for an answer. Instead, he swatted her away, but Sadie caught her with a wind spell.
Carter, please, we're out of time, Horus warned. We must join together as one, now.
For once, Carter agreed. His friends and uncle were flat on the floor. No other help was coming, and if he didn't hurry, everyone was going to die. Do it! Carter shouted. Suddenly, Carter's thoughts were filled with many different faces, faces of all of Horus's previous hosts. For the first time, Carter saw and understood Horus's powers and fears. Carter was once again encased in his now golden mystic avatar, only this time, both he and Horus were at the wheel. Carter and Horus spoke in unison. Now, Set, brother, uncle, traitor, whatever, I shall crush you like a nut. They clashed sword against staff, and sparks flew. They danced around at super speed trying to hit each other. Carter managed to cut Set at least once on the face. Then, Set pounded his staff, causing debris to fall. Sadie protected unconscious Zia and Amos and herself with a shield spell. Then, Carter thrusted his arm upward, creating another fist spell, blasting a hole through the roof. Then Carter wrapped Set into a wrestler's hold and jumped up high through the hole in the ceiling. His idea was to take the fight away from the throne and his friends, so Sadie could have time to get everyone out and hopefully free their dad. Thankfully, Sadie automatically got the gist. Then Zia faintly said,
Sadie, his name. You need Set's secret name. I was trying to tell Carter, but I didn't have time. Evil Day. His secret name is Evil Day. Set was born, and it was an evil day. Don't worry about me. Carter needs you. She knew she was right. Carter wouldn't have gotten this far without her. She was about to run out when she just remembered the coffin. She walked up to it, wondering how she could open it when Isis called. "No, don't," she warned. "What you might see may be too dangerous." "What are you talking about? I had to free Dad," Sadie said. When she put her hand on the coffin, she fell into a vision. She found herself standing in a familiar street. For some reason, she was back at Cleopatra's Needle in London. Just then, she noticed two people who seemed to be a couple standing just a few feet away. It was her mom and Dad.
"You're sure about this?"
Dad asked Mom. "Positive," Mom said. "She told me this is where it begins." Sadie almost felt like crying. She'd only been 6 when her mom died, and she totally forgot how beautiful her voice was. Then, Sadie noticed something very interesting about the necklace she was wearing. She was wearing Sadie's same amulet, the amulet of Isis.
"I don't like this," Julius said. "You should call on her for help."
"No, Julius," said Ruby. "I know my limits. If I tried again now..."
"But Ruby, if we fail..."
"We cannot fail, Julius," said Ruby. "Our children's lives, everyone we care about, the whole world depends on it." They kissed, but they kissed almost as if they were saying goodbye one last time. Then they raised their wands and pointed up at the needle, and the needle started to glow. Sadie realized with a start what she was seeing. This was the night it all started, the very night where Dad lost Mom at Cleopatra's Needle. Sadie wanted to call to them and warn them to stop, but she knew they wouldn't hear her. She knew, deep down, this was all just an image of the past. Sadie could only watch as her parents casted spells at the needle. Then, what looked like a giant red beam of light seemed to grow right out of the needle. Ruby pushed her husband out of the way, and the light beamed down and collided with her wand. Sadie watched as her mother screamed in pain, and the light faded, and then Ruby fell into her husband's arms. Julius cried as he rocked her in his arms.
"Oh, my Ruby,"
he whimpered. Sadie wanted to go over and hug him, but she figured he wouldn't feel her. Just then, she heard a slight meow. At the foot of the needle, they saw Muffin the cat? There was no doubt about it. That same cat was hosting Boss even back then, just as Boss had explained to her before. The vision faded, and Sadie found herself back in the present in the throne room again. "Isis?" Sadie said to herself. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me?" she screamed. Then, she wasn't sure if she imagined it, but she thought she heard her dad's voice.
"Sadie."
"Dad?"
"Sweetheart, please don't blame Isis for your mother's fate. None of us knew fully what might have happened. She made her decision."
"And you just let her? You should have stopped her," Sadie said. "I hate you." As soon as she said that, she realized she wanted to say that to him for years, for blaming him for her mom's death, for leaving her with her grandparents in London. Now that she had said it, her anger drained out of her, leaving her empty with nothing but guilt. I'm sorry," she hesitated.
"No need to apologize," her father said. "You had every right to feel that way. You had to get it out of you. Your mother was the first in centuries to communicate with Isis. Soon enough, she had her own premonitions of chaos rising. The house was failing, and we needed the gods. Isis did warn her it would take many hard sacrifices. We believed opening the needle would release all the gods, but it was only the beginning."
Why didn't Isis try to help? Sadie asked.
She knew if she had let your mother host her fully, she would completely burn out. She freed Bast and used her own power to seal the breach. With her sacrifice, she bought us some time, Sadie. You and your brother have the strongest bond any Kane has had in 3,000 years. Look inside yourself, Sadie. Your mother knew this better than anyone. You two have the best chance at learning the old ways and healing the breach between humans and the gods. It'll be up to you and Carter to restore Mott.
But we could use your help, Sadie said. Just tell me how to get you out.
Sadie, Julius said, when you become a parent, you may understand this better. As a father, one of my hardest jobs, my greatest duties, was realizing my goals and dreams are secondary to my children's. Your mother and I have set the stage, but the roles are yours. The pyramid's designed to feed on chaos, consume power of other gods, and make Set stronger.
I know, Sadie said. If I could just get the coffin open.
You might save me, Julius finished. But the power of Osiris, the power inside me, would be consumed by the pyramid and make Set stronger. It must be destroyed, Sadie. All of it. You know what must be done.
Sadie looked at the feather of truth pop up in her hand. Deep down, she knew what he meant. She knew the way. The way was inside her. She finally understood Anubis' question. Would you be prepared to lose your father if it meant saving the world?
May Mud guide you, Sadie, Julius said. I love you, sweetheart.
She closed her eyes and pulled out her staff from her bag and pounded it on the floor. Like her brother, she merged with Isis as one. With that, Sadie rocketed her way up through the hole in the roof. Meanwhile, Carter and Set were still having their duel outside the pyramid. Only now, the House of Life showed up. Desjardins and his henchmen were all kept busy fighting all the demons.
You'll never defeat me in my own territory, boy,
Set growled.
I am king of the desert. The desert is where I'm strongest.
That's why we're finishing you outside the desert, a voice said above him. Sadie floated out of the top of the pyramid. She was encased in a glowing avatar shaped like a large woman with blue and red wings and a sun crown. Then she shouted two words that no one could ever expect. Washington, D.C.! One moment, a flash of light flooded the entire cavern. The next minute, everyone found themselves right in the middle of the National Mall, along with the entire pyramid. The trip caused Set to tumble down the side of the pyramid and hit the ground, but Carter caught him. Sadie, the book, Carter called. Do it now! If it weren't for her merging with Isis, she probably wouldn't have heard that, or be able to do what she did next. She raised her hand and summoned the Book of Thoth out of thin air. She held the Feather of Truth in her other hand and began the spell. From the book she chanted the story of creation, the first mountain rising above the sea of chaos, the birth of the gods, Ra, Nut, and Geb, and the first great empire. The Washington Monument glowed behind them. Bits of the pyramid started rising up and getting sucked into the monument. Only then did Sadie remember Zia and Amos were still inside, and she almost faltered. Then she heard her mother's voice saying, "Stay focused, my dearest. Watch for your enemy." She realized she was right. As she continued the spell, Set started changing back from the dog-headed demon to the normal-sized red man. "I name you Set!" Sadie shouted. "I name you Evil Day!"
No!
With a thunderous roar, the Washington Monument sucked away the whole pyramid like a vacuum cleaner. "You have been my enemy," Sadie continued, "and a curse on the land." A beam of light shot down from the Washington Monument, hitting Set. They realized it wasn't just a beam of light. It was a pathway between the mortal world and the abyss that would lock Set away and trap his life force. It probably wouldn't get rid of him forever, but definitely for a long, long time. Sadie had one last line to complete. as an enemy of might, and deserving no mercy. You are exiled beyond the earth. Just then, the red beam seemed to form a shape. It looked like a long red river. No, not a river, a giant serpent. Sadie threw the feather of truth to it as it tried to rise up. As soon as it hit the serpent, its whole body evaporated and the rip closed. Suddenly, Face of Horror jumped out of the rubble and jumped towards Sadie. Carter stopped him in the nick of time by throwing his sword, impaling the demon. Then, Face of Horror spoke with an angry hiss.
This is not over, godling. All this I've brought only with the tiniest whisper of my own voice. Imagine what I could have done once I had completed the pyramid and breached my cage and rise to my full strength. You all shall suffer much more than your parents have. You shall...
Bam! Carter crushed the demon's head under his feet, making him crumble to sand. Then, Carter and Sadie turned back to Set, who sat perfectly still on the ground. They weren't worried at all, given Sadie had already spoken his secret name. Now he was doing exactly what they wanted. You both did see that as I did, right? Sadie asked both of them. Yeah, the giant red serpent, Carter said. No doubt about it. That was the chaos snake I mentioned before. Apophis. I totally get it now, he continued. This whole time the pyramid wasn't to help Set maintain himself, it was to help Apophis break into the mortal world. He probably would have if the pyramid had been completed. And Face of Horror? He was like Apophis's mouthpiece somehow. He used Set to get what he wanted.
No one uses me,
Set growled. Maybe you don't see eye to eye with other gods, Sadie said, but you're still one of them. Out of all of them, you are the strongest. Ra even trusted you as his loyal lieutenant, who protected him from the snake.
Which you only know from Thoth, Set argued. And now Ra is gone, no thanks to you, Isis.
Maybe, Sadie said, but maybe not forever. We'll have to find him. We'll need his help to defeat the snake again. And when that time comes, you will aid him. Until then, you'll be taking a nice, long, well-deserved break.
What?
Swear by your own name you will leave the mortal world now and return and remain in the Duat until we call upon you again. Set did as he was told. He sounded like it pained him to get the words out, but after he finished, he disappeared into red vapor.
Ha! Just like old times, little sister, Set chuckled. You really got me good this time. Nice going!
Carter and Sadie then proceeded to find Zia and Amos. With the pyramid gone, it wasn't as hard as they thought finding their friends in all that rubble. Eventually, they found him in the exact same spot where they left them.
Amos looked so dizzy and drained, he could barely move or speak.
Sadie, Carter.
It's okay, Uncle, Sadie said. We're safe now, all of us. You can rest now. Then it just occurred to them that there was no sign of the golden coffin. They never got the chance to free Dad, but they had to push that thought aside for now. Amos and Zia needed them. As for Zia, she didn't look much better. In fact, she looked worse. She was looking pretty under the weather. Carter? Is Zed gone? She asked. Yeah, he is, Carter said. We stopped him, all thanks to you. The secret name worked. Good, she said weakly. I'm so relieved you're safe. Then she started to shut her eyes. Hey, stay awake, Carter panicked. You don't want to leave me here alone with Sadie, do you? She's bad company. Zia tried for a smile, and a tear dripped down from her face. I was never really here, Carter, she hesitated. I was just a messenger, a placeholder. What? Fight her, Carter, Zia said. Please,
promise me you'll find her and take her on that date to the mall. She would like that.
Then, Zia's whole body started turning the color of clay and started cracking. Then, her whole body flew apart like a sand sculpture blown away into the wind, leaving Carter frozen with tears. What did remain, however, was a small glowing blue ball of light hovering where Zia had just been laying and suddenly rocketed into the sky.
A Shopti, Sadie said, surprised. She was a Shopti. Carter, don't you see? She's not dead. She was just a replica. Don't you remember what Thoth said? Shopti make excellent stunt doubles. This must have been Iskandar's way of protecting her. And Netvis told me that she was inside a sleeping host. The real Zia's out there somewhere. We'd have to find her, just like she asked.
But Carter remained silent with tears in his eyes. This should have given him some hope. But then Sadie realized, if Zia really hadn't been here this whole time, did they even know her at all? And could Carter really have lost any chance at his first possible girlfriend? He gingerly picked up Zia's wand. Then he blinked the tears out of his eyes and tried for a smile. Yeah, you're probably right, he said. That blue light was just like the light from Thoth's Shaktis. It's probably going to do the same and go share what it's seen, assuming it can reach her, wherever she may be. Then, a familiar voice sent shivers down their backs.
What have you two just done?
Desjardins asked angrily. Carter and Sadie had been so busy getting rid of Set and the pyramid, protecting their friends, saving the world, and keeping themselves alive, they almost completely forgot that he and the other magicians were here. They barely even had time to slow down and take a breather.
Seriously? You're still alive out of all people?
Nice, Sadie complained.
You fools made a bargain with Set?
Desjardins growled.
In case you missed the whole light show, Michelle, Sadie explained, Apophis the Chaos Snake is rising. If we are to prevent that, then we're going to need help from all the gods, including Set. The House of Life needs to relearn the old ways.
The old ways nearly destroyed us.
Your own pride destroyed you, Sadie said, with a lot more confidence than she'd ever imagined having, probably thanks to Isis. Not to mention your greed, fear, selfishness, etc., she continued. Maybe following the path of the gods isn't easy, but it's part of the magic. You can't just shut it down.
You are drunk with power, Desjardins argued. The gods have possessed you as they always do. Soon you will even forget that you are even human.
Well, then I guess you won't mind if we prove otherwise, Sadie said, and she turned to her brother. You know what we have to do, she told him.
Yeah, you're right, he said.
Consider carefully, child, Isis said in Sadie's mind. What we've done so far is only the beginning. Imagine the power we can wield together. That's the problem, Sadie said. I'm not ready. I have to find my own way there. Very well, said Isis.
You're sure about this? Horus asked Carter. We made a great team after all. I can protect you and all your loved ones.
Yeah, Carter said, but for once Sadie's right. It's for the best. I do feel a little bad giving this up. For the first time, I actually felt kinda, special.
You were always special, Carter, Horus said. You are Kane. You are blood of the pharaohs, which means you are destined for greater things, as you were always meant to be.
The Kane siblings felt the two gods leave their presence and return to the Duat, although they felt as if they left a part of themselves in Carter and Sadie's necklaces. Desjardins looked shocked and hesitated to speak.
You let them go?
Apparently you have a lot to learn about what's possible, Sadie said.
Desjardins, Carter said, I promise I'm not after the throne. Not unless I earn it by myself. And that'll take some time. We're gonna do as Sadie said and learn the old ways and teach it to others who need it. You can waste your time judging us and try to stop us, or you could do the smart thing and help. Police sirens could be heard in all directions.
I swear, Desjardins said, I have dealt with bigger brats like you who have done just as much damage over the centuries. You two are no different. I will set this aside for now, but if you ever cross that house again...
He let the threat hang in the air, with his finger pointing at them. Then he and his soldiers teleported away. Then, Carter and Sadie turned Amos into a mouse, then turned themselves into birds again. Carter carried Amos and they flew away back to Brooklyn just as the police were coming down the street. The president was going to be real confused for a long time about why there was a giant brown patch that suddenly appeared in the middle of the National Mall. It took them a couple of hours, but they eventually made it back home to Brooklyn House. Thankfully, no enemies were around. Unfortunately, the place was still in shambles. They found Khufu doing his best to sweep away the rubble while Muffin was resting on the couch. Amos was still way too weak to do anything, so they put him to bed. Carter, Sadie, and Khufu did the best they could to tidy up the place. Even with all the magic they had, they spent the whole day cleaning up and fixing everything. The next morning, they still had a lot to fix. They figured it would take at least a week before the house was its old self again. Then, while they were having breakfast on the sofa, a portal opened up in front of them. Anubis was waiting for them on the other side. He told them that someone very special wanted to speak with the two of them. Carter and Sadie decided to leave Amos on the couch, since he was still very weak. They walked through the portal and found themselves in the same room with the same giant scale behind the chair. But what really caught their eyes was who was standing at the foot of the throne. "Dad?" Carter said. You're green." Julius laughed at the comment. Indeed, he was green, the color of Osiris, which couldn't have been a coincidence.
"Thanks, son," he said. "It does come with the territory. I wanted to tell you two how proud I am, and that the gods are in your debt, and—"
"Hold on," Sadie said. "Are you Dad or Osiris? Are you even alive?"
Julius smiled and said,
"To answer that, I am both Julius Kane and Osiris. I am both dead and alive, although the term recycled may be closer to the truth. Osiris is the god of the dead and new life. To return Osiris to the throne..."
"You had to give up your own life," Carter finished. "You knew this all along, didn't you? Since the moment at the museum, you hosted Osiris knowing you would die." Carter was shaking with anger. He didn't realize how strongly he felt about all this, but he just couldn't believe what his dad had done.
"This is what you meant by making things right?"
he complained. Dad's smile didn't fade, as if Carter said nothing.
"There are no words to describe how much I missed you, Carter," he said. "But we've all made the right choices. If you had saved me in the world above, we would have lost everything. For the first time in millennia, we have a chance at rebirth and to stop chaos, all thanks to you. Osiris was a great king, but when he died,
he became 1,000 times better," Carter finished.
"The duat is the foundation of the real world," Julius said. "The chaos down here reverberates to the upper world. Returning Osiris to his throne was the first step. Oh, and there's also another reason I made my choice, as you may have already guessed."
He gestured to his left, and they saw...
"Mom?"
the siblings exclaimed. They both ran to her, but as soon as they touched her hands, they only realized they couldn't touch her at all. Their mom was made of mist. She was still dead. Despite this, she smiled at them and said, "Your father told me you two have grown quite a lot. I almost couldn't believe it. Oh, my dear Carter, you're starting to look more like your father." "Thanks, Mom," he said, trying for a smile. "Dating any girls yet?" she asked him. "Mom," Carter said, embarrassed. "I'm so sorry we cannot go back, sweethearts," she said. "But nothing so precious is ever truly lost, even in death. You remember the law of conservation?" It had been 6 years since she told him about that, back when Carter was only 8, but he did remember. Energy and matter can't be created or destroyed, he said. Only changed, Ruby finished, and sometimes for the better. She took her husband's hand, and despite being dead, they both looked happy. Really happy. Mom, Sadie asked, when I touched Dad's coffin and saw you in that image, was it really... How it happened? Ruby asked. Yes, sweetheart. It was my thoughts mixed with yours. I am so proud of you. And thanks to Isis, I feel like I know you better now. I even learned how you dislike your grand scones as much as I did. Sometimes she tends to force her taste upon others. I know, she's impossible, Sadie replied. They laughed together. Then Ruby held out some sort of stick for them to take. They didn't know how a ghost could carry something solid, but Sadie took it anyway. Julius explained that it was the spine of Osiris, and that it was what they were going to need to reunite the blood of the pharaohs and restore the House of Life. The house isn't going to like this, Sadie said. Nope, Ruby giggled. We must let you return home now, Julius said. I promise we will meet again soon. Until then, be good to your uncle. Oh, and when you see him again, remind him that Egyptians believe in the power of the sunrise. They believe each morning brings not just a new day, but also a new world. Oh, and Horus and Isis has sent you a gift of their own by the time you get back. Before Carter could ask, and before Sadie could say goodbye to Anubis, another portal hovered over them, and they found themselves in an even brighter throne room that Sadie recognized. In front of them stood two old friends, Horus and Isis. Hello, old friends, Horus said. Osiris tells me you're going to be busy for a while, so I thought I should hurry up and ask you one more time. Will you join me, Carter? Together, you and I can rule the earth and the heavens. Mut demands a leader. We could accomplish so much together, Carter, and it is your destiny to lead the House of Life. You could be king of both worlds. That idea did make Carter's knees turn to water. Then he just said, Maybe someday, much later. 5,000 years and I still don't understand mortals, Horus said, but very well. I, Horus, son of Osiris, claim the throne of the gods as my birthright. What was once mine shall be mine again. Then Isis turned to Carter and Sadie and said, You've both done so much to restore Mut. The gods must gather strength, and you have bought us time. Though we don't know how much time, and Apophis will not stay locked up forever. But today, you are heroes, and the gods owe you a debt, which we take very seriously. Go in peace now, Carter and Sadie Kane, Horus said. You'll find your gift waiting back home. I promise we will meet again. Until then, we shall keep a close watch on your progress. With a wave of Isis's hand, the next thing they knew, they found themselves back in their uncle's mansion again. Suddenly, they wildly guessed what Horus and Isis's gift was just from looking around. The mansion was completely repaired, as if it had never been destroyed. Outside, Amos was having tea, and he looked better than he had in days. They also noticed that Philip the crocodile was back in his pool, safe and sound. Sadie ran over and hugged her uncle. Then, Amos announced that he decided to go away for a while to the first gnome. He explained that he wasn't quite at his full strength yet, and they had the best healers there. I may be gone for a while, but can I trust you two to look after the place? Promise me you'll treat it like your home, won't you? Because after all, it is your home now. We promise, Uncle. You can count on me, Sadie said. Yeah, said Carter. Wait, what? Also, Amos said, I think you should start recruiting soon. There are plenty of blood of the pharaohs out there in the world. Most of them don't even know who they are. You two may be their only hope. He hugged Carter and Sadie goodbye. Then he picked up a suitcase, stepped up on the edge of the building, and said, And don't worry, I won't leave you two alone without a chaperone. He jumped off the edge of the building and disappeared out of thin air before they could ask questions.
Was that my suitcase that he took? Carter asked. Whatever. Anyway, who do you suppose he meant by a chaperone? He asked Sadie. I dunno, but I doubt he meant Khufu, Sadie said. Well, sounds like there's a job opening here, a voice said behind them. They turned around to see and smile at the sight of an old friend. Sadie ran happily into the arms of Bast. And they say cats don't really have 9 lives, she humored. What happened next? Well, the next couple of days were kind of quiet, thankfully, as they tried to figure out where they should start looking for recruits. Then one night, Sadie had a dream vision that gave her an idea of where to look. After telling Carter and Bast about it, they packed up the spine of Osiris, rented a car, and drove off. Along the way, Carter and Sadie decided to record their adventure with a rather old tape recorder Sadie got in the mail a couple of days ago as a gift from her grandparents. Where exactly they had to go and who they would leave the gift for still remains a secret. Soon enough, they stopped by a school, snuck the gift into a locker, and magically sealed it in with Carter's combination, 133233. They weren't worried at all, because they knew the right people would come across it. So now, all they could do was wait until recruits responded, and hopefully they would know to pass the gift on. Carter and Sadie had to trust that the gods would guide the blood of the pharaohs to Brooklyn House. They also had to prepare for whenever Set returned. Also, Carter had to find the real Zia, wherever she may be. Most of all, chaos was slowly rising. Apophis was out there, which meant the gods and humans had to reunite. It was the only way they could save the world. And so, the Kane family was left with a lot of work to do.
Mr. Brunner. That is your name, isn't it? Or do you go by another one these days? No, Amos, there's no need for that now these days. I've been all too busy lately. Knowing you, I'm sure you have. As have I, more recently. You know you're taking quite a risk just coming here, Chiron. Even just passing the bridge. Yes, I know. It's just, I've been running out of places to search. A lot's been happening more recently since the last big battle. I've lost all contact with my superiors, so I'm running out of people to ask for help. Because what's more, I spent days searching for something precious. One of my best students is currently missing.
Huh?